Groundwater from aquifers sustains life of every kind in Texas. It is a key resource to every industry in Texas, from farming, ranching, and manufacturing to energy exploration and refining. However, we cannot see this resource until it flows out of the ground in the form of a spring or is pumped out of a well. Aquifers are water-bearing rocks underneath the land surface. A spring flows when an aquifer is filled to the point that the groundwater overflows onto the land surface. Many Texas rivers and streams are spring-fed. Natural springs originally helped support Native American settlements and served as the key junctions along hunting and migration trails. Later, missions and towns developed around these springs and grew into the Texas cities we see today. While surface water from the state's many rivers and reservoirs continues to fulfill some of the state's water needs, groundwater from aquifers still supplies 60% of all water used in Texas. But rising groundwater usage has led to steadily declining supplies. Some springs that sustained early communities have dried up. Big Spring in West Texas has long gone dry, but because of its significance to the town, the illusion of a flowing spring is kept up by piping in surface water.
Groundwater volume is measured in acre-feet. 1 acre-foot of water, about 330,000 gallons, would cover a football field to a depth of 1 foot. This amount of water is sufficient to meet the needs of 2 average-sized families for 1 year. When we look at the numbers, Texas used a total of 8 million acre-feet of groundwater in 2010, more than other sources of water such as surface water from reservoirs and rivers. Groundwater is used not only for drinking water, but also to meet the needs of many commercial enterprises, including agriculture, manufacturing, and energy production. The amount of groundwater that was available in 2010 was 13 million acre-feet. By 2060, the amount of groundwater available is expected to decline to 10 million acre-feet per year. Meanwhile, the Texas population is expected to increase from 25 million to 50 million. With declining supplies and growing demands for water, groundwater availability is a critical concern, both now and in the future.
Texas has 9 major aquifers. A major aquifer covers a large geographic area and can produce large amounts of groundwater. Major aquifers accounted for 84% of available groundwater in 2012. The remaining 16% was contained in 21 minor aquifers. A minor aquifer is an aquifer that can produce only small amounts of water over large areas or large amounts over small areas. Some of these aquifers are the principal source of water for communities in Texas, especially in the arid western part of the state. In San Antonio, nearly all the water comes from an aquifer, and it is a good quality, cost-effective, reliable resource during times of drought.
The Texas Water Development Board works with nearly 100 groundwater conservation districts throughout the state. The agency provides these districts with a wide range of educational and technical resources to develop effective groundwater management plans. As of 2012, all confirmed districts have plans that are approved by the Texas Water Development Board or are in the process of being approved. At the state level, regional water planning groups across Texas have designed groundwater management strategies to meet future demands brought on by population growth. Plans include new ideas for water conservation, development of new water wells, increased withdrawal at current well fields, desalination of brackish groundwater, using surface water to offset groundwater demands, and transferring water between river basins. Module 4 of this video series describes how groundwater is managed at the local, regional, and state levels in Texas. The Texas Water Development Board's Water IQ Know Your Water is a statewide public awareness program that educates Texans about water conservation. Water IQ provides information on water conservation practices, raises awareness about the importance of water conservation, and helps Texans use less water.
With the projected doubling of the state's population over the coming decades and the ever-present threat of drought, Texas is preparing to meet the challenge of supplying water to its citizens. Throughout the state, dedicated water management professionals and community leaders are working together to ensure the availability of quality water, the essential element, past, present, and future, in the development of the great state of Texas.
Okay, Director Johnson is sick, unfortunately. He just got sick, so he's going to try to dial in if he can. If not, we can touch base with him next couple of days. And I believe Director Roberts is on her way. Have you heard from her?
I'm not sure she's gonna make it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have a quorum.
Yes,
so.
we have a quorum, so.
Okay, let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're gonna have 30 seconds of silence.
Silence your phones, please.
Okay, thank you. Lisa's just reminded me, we have the new fiber set up now, which is great. Our internet's coming through really fast, but unfortunately, it's gonna pick up everything. So a tic-tac or a paper or a side conversation. So even more so than before, let's just try to kind of keep our side noise down if you all don't mind. Okay, citizens communication. Do we have anyone here for citizens communication? I don't think so. Okay. Consent items. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 15th?
Motion. I'll second.
Any discussion? All in
Okay to
favor?
me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion to approve August 23rd minutes.
Motion. Second.
Okay, I do have two comments. One, there was a vote that wasn't recorded.
Correct, yeah.
It was,
And I actually went back and watched the tape, and so there was some confusion as to was there opposition or was there a no vote? So
Yeah, it
I
wasn't clear.
clarified that, and you can send that to me, got that.
yeah, so it was basically, it said unanimous and it was actually 4-1, and you confirmed it with Director Roberts
Yeah,
also. So,
that's correct.
so he's gonna make that. And then also the recess wasn't recorded. I don't know, if you always do that, but I think it's important because we did go off camera. So I've asked Sean to add that we went in recess and then when the board resumed.
No, I think that's good. So residents reading that have to look at the video know when we're on and off the record.
Okay, all right. So the motion is with those edits. Is that okay?
As amended, yep.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, report from BHC, Ms. Martin.
That's me. Okay, so October is a busy month for us. Apparently it's not a good year for pumpkins. So our pumpkins have to be delivered next week in order for us to get any pumpkins, and we're not sure what we're getting, but, so they're gonna be here a week before we open. So they'll be here Thursday the 5th, and we are not planning on opening till Friday the 13th or Saturday the 14th. And we'll get the guys to try to put them in the shade so that they last and all of that. But that's, and it'll be the weekend of the 13th, 14th, and 20th, 21st, 22nd is our current plan. It could change, but that's what we have right now. We also have the decorating contest is on October 28th for the entire neighborhood. And that is also the disc golf night event.
So are you decorating pumpkins or houses?
Which one? Yeah, we're doing both.
Okay, so there's a contest for each, okay.
There's not a there's a contest for, no. There's a contest for houses, and that's on the 28th.
Okay,
And then carving pumpkins is on the 28th, but there's no prizes.
I'm curious, will they be judging it during the daytime or at night when it's spookier?
At night.
Okay,
yeah, we've already got our judges lined up.
Oh, good, okay.
And then, we have the disc golf, nighttime tournament, for the 28th. And we need to get permission to have it after, obviously, dusk till like 10 o'clock, because we wanna add to the spookiness under the full moon.
Well, they're gonna be goblins spooking the disc golfers.
Yes,
Okay, so that, you have it under yours, right? Okay, we'll approve that when we get there.
okay. And then in November is our annual meeting on the 11th of November. And it looks like the camp out that we moved to the 11th is gonna be canceled. If anything, we're gonna try to do it this month, but we're not very hopeful.
Is that because of the burn ban?
The burn ban doesn't affect the grills, it only affects the s'mores.
Oh, yeah.
But no, the person that normally runs it has other plans that weekend, and so everything's kind of shifting. So it's kind of been a wild 3 months.
Yeah.
Trying to get stuff done, but we're looking to see if we can do it in October, and if this is still available for us, if we can find a weekend to do it.
Okay, just stay in touch with Lisa and she'll stay in touch with Trip if we turn off stuff or whatever.
I hear the Mono Park back there in the garden area is looking pretty good now that they've knocked out a lot of the underbrush, so that might be a good place if this is not available.
Okay.
Okay,
That scares me.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 4, requests for use of facilities.
I have 2 uses. One is gonna be for the disc golf course nighttime out at Humano. We're looking at getting an approval for the OA to utilize it until 10 PM. And then we're also looking at getting a movie night approval that will be hosted by the district on October the 14th. We'd like to do it near the pumpkin patch, and we're looking for approval on both of those.
Okay, great. So on the movie night, I'll probably work that. We're gonna do, this Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. We'll do it on the fence over by the pumpkin patch. I think that'll be kind of fun. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the 2?
Move.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next, number 7, proposal for Dig Dug Construction.
Yes, if you will remember, we actually did have an approval last month for a bigger ADA door that Empire Fence is constructing for us, but we are also needing the ADA ramp to go with that new door, so I'm looking for approval today at $2,750.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I'm sorry, this is tab 6, okay, we just have another exhibit here.
Yeah, no, this is one that's in the packet.
I was curious
Oh, yeah, I
as
was
the
confused.
square
Sorry.
footage on that, what is, it's not really big, or?
This is 18.
So the square footage on the
On the ramp,
On
the
the ramp.
concrete ramp.
So I don't have the square footage for you. What I can tell you is right now we currently don't have a ramp. And so
Okay.
we will need one with that new door in order to be able to allow for the residents to utilize their wheelchairs from an electrical standpoint of view.
Okay, so it'll be at least as wide as what we need
Of the door,
to get
exactly.
there, okay.
That is correct.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve Dig Dug proposal for 27.5?
$2,750.
266 SH, okay.
Yes.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next,
The next one you'll see is actually gonna be for the pergola at Apache Pool. This is gonna be estimate 267SH. Now, what I've done is I've also provided to you on the side, another proposal from Dig Dug that includes the pergola. If you all decide to have the pergola removed, as well as approve Dig Dug to come out and do more concrete repairs on the decking, you'll see that it's gonna be a $2,000 savings, or a little bit less than $2,000 savings, because they won't have to remobilize. So if we only just do the pergola alone, it'll be $4,250. If you all choose for them to go out, do the decking, as well as removal of the pergola, you'll see that price goes down to $2,500. With both of them, removing the concrete and repairs, and then also the pergola, looking at a total of $24,187.75.
and can this be in this year's budget, or is it gonna go into October 1?
We're looking at trying to see if they have time to mobilize for this year. If not, we will have to put it in next year's budget, but we do have dollars for that.
So we're gonna vote.
Yeah, I was gonna motion to discuss, but, so that's the question. I recall, didn't we put this in, I think we made a point to make sure we had something for this in some capacity in the budget, right?
That's correct.
Already?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, so I made a motion.
Second.
Alright,
All in favor?
real quick, are we, make sure, clear on what we're doing them, this 267 is the one on the list?
Yes.
268 is the one, 268 is the one we're doing both.
Exactly.
So which
Okay, so I'm
one?
gonna be clear, if I was making a motion to do both,
Okay,
since it is in the budget.
okay, so you're gonna second both, Robert?
Yes, I second both.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you got that, Sean?
Got it.
Okay, next?
Moving on, we actually last month, Director Johnson had provided to me his request in looking at fence repairs in the district. As I went through the district, one area that stuck out more than, not to say that there are not other areas, but one major area that we're looking at is Creek Run in its entirety. With that, I was able to reach out to Empire Fence, to Sagamore Fence, as well as Oztech. Oztech, you do have that proposal in front of you. With Empire Fence, you will see that they did roughly 5,760 linear feet at roughly $200,000. Sagamore Fencing, we looked at, it seems a lot less in price because the total would be $9,364, and this is for 200 linear feet. 200 linear feet. However, with Sagamore, one of the things that I wanted to mention is if we go with a contractor that is doing this by section, it allows for us to not necessarily repair all of Creek Run, but go through Creek Run and repair all of the necessary fencing that we can actually see that does need attention right away. The reason that they did it this way is because what we don't know right now is the way that the footings look on the back side of the resident fencing. So if they have to go in and add additional footing to any of the poles that are there, then it would be an additional 150. Breaking it up this way, it would allow for us, like I said, to do each section at 200 linear feet. The last proposal that I have is going to be for Oztech. Again, they looked at roughly 5,665 linear feet, and their total came out to $347,264.50, and they're also including their staining. However, it is far outside of our budget. I recommend that we do consider going with Sagamore because it is within our budget of $100,000 in the new fiscal year that we're walking into, and this would allow for us to be able to address the items that the residents that are in need of new fencing, we'd be able to look at it from both perspectives on either side of their fencing. We might be able to get a little bit more bang for our buck, considering that, again, there might be some footing that may not need to be done. There may be some areas that will have to add additional footing, but I think this allows for us to kind of have a little bit more of a flexibility with the budget that we currently have.
And it does not include staining.
It does not include staining. However, the stain company that I actually have been working with, they are the ones here in the Austin area that have blockhouse mud specific stain, and they are the ones that recommended Sagamore Fence. So we would be able to get the stain from them and encompass that into this proposal as well for a little bit more, but we would make sure that as they're going along, that they would be staining if that's something that the board would like done.
Okay, do I have a motion for one of the three suggested proposals?
Well, I make a motion on Sagamore because I want to discuss a little bit further about that with everybody.
Okay, do I have a second? That'd be you, Robert.
Oh, I'll second.
So Lisa, real quick, I was looking at this, and I was reading this before the meeting, so this is basically for them to come in and do 200-foot sections, right, which I guess is what, like a couple houses long,
Correct.
like that front is like 50, 100 feet.
Mhm.
So the idea, I guess, on doing it Sagamore versus Ostex is basically that they would be coming back with additional requests in this $9,000, $10,000, $11,000 range as we identify critical areas. So like, did they have a particular, did they come out to look and say, oh, this is the place we'd want to start? Or do we have a place tell them like, here's the first 200 feet we're doing, and then you can start adding more each meeting? Or how are we gonna schedule that?
So
work that?
basically what we
We
did
did
is,
this.
with Sagamore, we actually went all of Creek Run.
Mhm.
We did identify some really serious areas that needed to be addressed. What we would do is we would take the whole linear foot of Creek Run, identify those areas to the board, obviously have you all approve the particular section, and as we go along, give you that recommendation of the areas that we feel like are most necessary at that time. But we would be bringing them back as we go along. The first section, of course, I would convey it to the service subcommittee so that way they are aware, and then bring it back to the board so that way you all are updated on that. And then the next section, all of the board would be abreast of. at each time that we go through this process.
Yeah, 'cause I guess that I get that, you know, it'd be nice to replace it in chunks around, but I feel like, I guess driving around, I was around, you know, the other day, like, there's certain sections that are in vastly worse shape, particularly where there's trees or the pillars have shifted.
Yes.
And that's why when we're doing it in this long chunk is, it all needs to be replaced eventually, but doing it like in the first proposal for, lost my page here, sorry.
100,000.
For Empire, right, where it looked like they want to do that first stretch along, like, that is nice, but not all of those pieces are in equally bad shape. So I guess, for my personal, I'd like to kind of do something like Sagamore, just because I'd like to get this directed to the places where the fence is literally falling apart, is not in any kind of repair. And then we can, you know, we're gonna have to do this on an ongoing basis. I'd like to kind of attack the worst places first, rather than one section gets a whole bunch of new fence and everybody else is waiting until next year for their piece.
Right, so they could go over on the other side of the neighborhood and take care of it.
That's kind of like, I mean, I feel like that some of the areas I see like are bad is like, you know, there's trees here on the north side, and then also I feel like the area right around that corner of, towards Scottsdale, some of those pieces like, or if you look at them, like, seem like they're really, you can see into people's backyards.
Right, okay, Robert, do you have any comments?
I think my only comment, my concern, and my question is, looking back at the budget decisions and such, we're doing a couple things. We're doing, or three things. We're doing the major posts, refurbish, whatever we're doing there. We're doing the wooden fencing, and we're gonna be doing the staining. As you move forward, how big of a problem would it be to get an estimate? This wood should last 10 years, or the stain should last 5 years, or these columns so that we can, when we get an estimate, and then in 4 years, when we're redoing it again, then we're like, hey, these last 4 years, but we thought it would last 5, and then we can do better budgeting down the road, because we know, hey, this lasts 5 years, or whatever it is. Would that be is that adding too much overhead to your?
It's not necessarily adding overhead, but you're not gonna find somebody that's gonna give you a pinpointed 4 to 5 years. Everything depends on, obviously, the elements. Most importantly, I think you mentioned, you know, posting or columns. Columns are not included in any of this. Columns
Okay.
are gonna be outside of that scope, and you're looking at a vast amount of dollars. You're looking at anywhere from 5 to 7, just depending on, you know, where the column is located at, how, you know, how it's situated in itself, how the old column was made before, if it requires just a full, complete tear down, which is normally the case. So
Okay.
what you're looking at really is just going to be your fencing, your staining, and the poles that actually hold up the fencing from the backside of the residence.
That are not the major,
That is
okay.
correct.
Okay, so, yeah, I just think if we can get estimates, even if you're wrong.
Sure.
Whatever they say, like, hey, this wood should last, because I see we're using cedar, which is gonna be the wood that ages a little bit better.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, let's kind of get that documented as we populate our, asset management.
Right.
Then when it comes to budgeting time, there's not gonna be any discussion or debate, and we know everything that we're gonna owe.
Absolutely.
And
That's a good idea. Actually, you know, it might be possible in the stain, maybe we could ask if there's a warranty life on it.
Okay.
I mean, it may not actually would actually last, but we could at least know that that's at least our minimum cycle for restaining. You know, if they have, like, say, a 3-year warranty on something, that we should at least flag it in the asset management that, you know, that it needs to be listed as something that needs to be attended or at least checked. That'd give us a start.
Right.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. That's a really good idea. If we could get this where each section is its own thing, then we can
Yeah,
keep
and
up on the repairs.
And I also want this to umbrella other things like, the pergola, when that gets built, or anything that we're adding new or replacing.
Sure, just log them there, absolutely.
If that's not too much overhead for you,
Not a problem at all.
Yeah,
Okay,
having a life cycle would be great.
okay, so are we ready to vote on is it Sagamore?
Secondly.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright,
Thank you.
And I'm
Um,
sorry, that motion is for Sagamore to do an amount not to exceed 100K.
10,000.
They have 10,000. We're gonna have to come back on this one, I think.
They're gonna do 10,000 sections,
Right,
so it's 10,000.
just for this one, and we'll come
Just for
back.
this one, yes.
And we'll come back each time to renew.
That is
Okay.
correct, and we'll be a little bit more specific on each location moving forward after that.
Okay, did everybody in favor? I don't know if I said that.
Aye.
yes, we're.
Okay, and then you went to 10,
I did.
9, do you wanna discuss that one?
Yes, Sean, I actually need your direction on this one. We do have some electrical repairs that need to be done at the monument lights. However, Suntech was not able to get me their proposal in on time, so what I'm asking is, a not to exceed of $3,000, do we need to push that, or could we push that to a service subcommittee, or have the district approve in total right now, or?
I'm fine if y'all, if you guys feel sufficiently advised on understanding what the work is and you feel like we're going to, come in under that, that's fine to do it not to exceed.
Okay, so not to exceed 3,000, do we need to vote on that? Or is that
Yes.
a directive? Okay,
Well, I'd like to just discuss really quick. So it just says electrical work. Do we have an idea of the scope of what we need to do? Is it just changing 3 light bulbs? Or is it,
No, this isn't changing 3 light bulbs, this is actually gonna be requiring some electrical line work. We possibly could have lost it maybe whenever the monument was hit in the past, or it could be something from the elements itself, from lightning or whatnot, but.
okay, so we're not exactly sure.
Exactly, so this could be a possibility of either lines or fixtures or both.
Yeah, it's always good to hear about
Gotcha.
stuff that can't track the problem down.
okay, so, do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Not to exceed the 3,000 for electrical work at the monument lights?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And then 11.
So 11 is gonna be for, cutting the trees out, that we had brought to the board before. We had 3 trees that needed to be removed due to the winter storm. We have 2 trees that currently have possible wood that could be used for any future projects. However, getting this wood, from Blockhouse to a sawmill and then back to Blockhouse to sit at the Germano building for curing for a couple of years. A couple of years. I don't have a fee as of yet to either have a tower or to maybe even check with Priority Landscape to see if that was something they'd be able to assist us with. But it would just be necessary, really just a board approval if this is something you all want to move forward on.
So I'm thinking we're looking at about, can I discuss yet or we need some motions?
Go ahead.
I think we're looking at about $2,000 for the transport. Some developments, we thought that we were gonna be asking him to store the lumber, kiln dry it, and litter it back. That's all changed. They will only mill it, and it's going to be one of those things, we get there with the wood, he mills it, put it back on the truck, and bring it back. One of the problems will be the storage. This is to be stored with some tin foil over the top, protected from the sun. They'll be putting some slats underneath it and in between the boards, and it's gonna need at least a year, probably 2 years, because we're not gonna be kiln drying it, but we're gonna be saving some money. This will give us 2 years to start planning on what to do with the wood. Once we see the wood, the sizes, the shapes, what we can do with it, different things like that, then we can start looking into budgeting for some workshop. I know Brad Shavel's got a great place, and he's willing to work with any volunteer residents that wanna come in and help out. But there will be associated fees with construction of whatever we determine. There may be some lumber that we could sell off at the end of it as well.
It's elm?
It's the bulk of it out in the back of Humana right now, and what would ideally be like conference table type wood, that's already out there. We've got one more elm, and then there's a sycamore right there by Apache, and those aren't quite as big for lumber as the first one, but we will probably have more than $2,000 worth of lumber by the end of the 2 years.
So just to remind you, Dr. Shoemaker, we approved to tear these 3 trees down because it was a safety issue. The one went down, and then we kind of paused because we didn't really have a plan on what we're gonna do with the wood. Director Roberts was thinking about like doing a carving or something in the wood, but that didn't end up happening. And Director Young at the same meeting said it would be great to do something with that wood, because it's nice wood. And my recommendation was, if you guys have ideas, bring it back, sit on the agenda, and we can discuss it. So that's why we're discussing it now.
Yeah, this is good. I mean, I was like, whatever everybody else wants to do, I'm kind of neutral on what to do with it beyond something besides just throwing it away or chipping it. So
Yeah.
it sounds like everybody's got good ideas, so.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's a good idea, just keep it and keep working on proposals for it, yeah, what are we gonna be doing with it?
Okay, all right, so
Do we need a motion on this one, or?
is there anything to approve?
We would need a not to exceed as well.
Okay, so, Trip, do I understand correctly that you were thinking about helping out with transporting it there and back? What is your estimate?
I have them go on together, I mean, you know, they say
Not to
they're
exceed.
$1,500 probably.
Okay, so let's do 2,000, just cover it, okay?
Okay.
It's not to exceed 2,000, do I have a motion to approve?
And then there's also the sawmill, which he charges $150 an hour.
Mhm.
So that could get up to 1,000, I suspect. I'm not sure how long it takes to mill.
3,000?
Okay, so not to
No wood.
exceed 3,000 to get it there, milled and back.
Okay.
Right, and then, I'd also like to use the inside of, the Humano building. There's plenty of space in there. I think we're working on cleaning some stuff out there. And then just for the time being, the hot side of it, if we can store the
We'll
lumber
work with
there.
Lisa on that. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve not to exceed 3,000?
Motion?
Second.
Yeah, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Report? Mr. Lovato, Deputy Lovato, Williamson County.
Yes, alright, couple of things, Detective Bartlett, he made, 2 traffic stops since, the last time I made a report. Got some narcotics, fraudulent documents, and a felony warrant. Another one was possession of narcotics and an illegal firearm. So we got that. Some of the guys have told me that Tonkawa Park, the chain latches are too short, and it's really hard for them to try and lock it. I don't know if we can do something about that.
Absolutely.
Boy Scouts had an event out here one weekend, so me and Detective Hipper brought out our armored vehicle. Let the
Cool.
kids play in there, look through it. They got a chance to put on all our plate carriers, look at all of our equipment, and got to take pictures in it too. So, that was pretty cool. They had a kick out of that. There is something that I wanna bring up. This was brought to my attention on the 8th of this month. Detective Bartlett was going to go lock the gates at Jamal Park, and he made contact with Director Young. He told me that Director Young told him that I had been notified that the park is to remain open until 10 p.m. So I didn't know that. As soon as he called and told me that, I told him I didn't know that. Director Young then told him that he didn't think that we should be responsible for locking the gates. But then in the very next sentence said that I said I'm only 5 minutes away, but whenever they need to be locked in the evening or open in the morning, I'm always out on vacation or SWAT training or whatever. So I don't know where that came from. Director Young then asked if he knew who Director Roberts was. He said yes, he's met her a couple of times, and then he proceeds to describe her as an extra paranoid person who lives on Tumlinson, who's always calling about the Tumlinson Park gates not getting closed on time. And how we just removed her from safety and security. He then goes on to say about the new chain of command, how Blockhouse is supposed to work. It goes from the directors to the GM, then to me, and then to the deputies on the contract. So right after that statement, he says, we did give him direction, but we understand how things get lost in translation. Pretty much implying that I failed to communicate the information to the deputies on the contract. And sorry for my voice, I've been teaching firearms all week, so it's kind of going out. So, with all that being said, on the 14th, about 6 days after Detective Bartlett told me about this, I was contacted by Amy via email in regards to a resident complaint about the gates at Jamano. So I was able to address the issue, I talked to the deputy, and the only reason why I bring this up is because it has some issues with Director Roberts' statements. In Amy's email, it says.
Director Roberts or Robert?
Director Young, sorry. Statement by saying, Amy said in her email specifically, the gates needs to be locked at dusk. So I didn't really understand what was going on. If I was supposed to have been notified that the gates are supposed to be closed at 10, on the 8th, when Director Young had contacted with Detective Bartlett, why am I getting an email on the 14th stating specifically that they need to be locked at dusk? So, with all that being said, I'd like to address them one at a time. I went through all my emails to see if I had missed anything from Amy or Ms. Torres, and nowhere in any of the emails said that I was told the parks were supposed to be locked at 10 o'clock. Because I would make sure that I would have told my guys that, because that means that they need to stay later in order for the gates to be locked. I don't know where the whole I'm never available, that I'm always on vacation or SWAT training or whatever. The only times I remember not being here on vacation, I send out an email, I let Lisa know, I let Deputy Boggs know that he's gonna be the point of contact. Lisa knows that. I put his phone number in there, and I even put in there that if it's an issue in the mud right away, contact Boggs. If it's an emergency, call 911. If it's something I can still deal with while I'm out, I give my personal cell phone number. So, I don't know where I'm always on vacation was an issue. Another one was when you said, or SWAT. The only thing I can remember for SWAT was when I was unavailable because we had the SWAT conference coming into town. And another one was when we had a SWAT mission the following day, right before, or the following day following the meeting night. And we had to be there at 4:30 for briefing. So after I sent Lisa that information, she said this will be fine. And moving forward, we no longer need you to come to any of the meetings. But then at the very next MUD meeting, people were wondering why I wasn't here. So I don't know what's going on with communication. I just feel like I'm being put in the middle of it. And then the one incident, I do remember Lisa called me about the gates being left open. It was in the morning, and we're not responsible for opening the gates. So I also don't know why that comment was made about not opening them in the morning. Lisa did call me one time. I said, I don't know what happened. I will find out. And it turned out it was one of the deputies who had just had a kid. He went on FMLA. I assumed, and this was my fault, that he had got somebody to cover his shifts. He didn't. And I told Lisa that, and I said, I will make sure the rest of his shifts for the month are covered, and that it won't happen again. So then Director Young then goes into commenting about the chain of command and how it works, about how it goes from the directors to the GM to me, and then me related to my deputies. So when you made that comment to Detective Bartlett, it made it sound like I had not passed on the information that had been provided to me, and that I was the one that didn't do it. You didn't hesitate to lay the blame on me, it seemed like. So I don't understand why maybe the first thing you would have said was, well, let me make sure that that information was relayed to him. You just said that we told him, must have got lost in translation, and almost as if you're making me look like I'm unfit to run the contract. So, I don't know. And then the comment you made about Director Roberts was uncalled for. We're here to provide a security service for the residents of Blockhouse. We're not here to get involved with the political issues that you have with each other. And you even wrote to me an email once that you want to kind of stop the drama and, you know, dedicated as many things. I don't see how this is to be accomplished when you're saying things about the directors, other directors, to the contractors that provide a service to the community. And if anything, I think this would only cause more issues and division. So I don't know what's going on. I kind of feel like anytime something happens, it's always being blamed on me. I try to make sure that I communicate with everybody what's going on.
I appreciate all that, and what I would like to recommend is we do have a new security subcommittee. I know we were supposed to have a meeting this week and Amy messed up on the scheduling, but I think she's reached out to you for your schedule, so let's get together the subcommittee the soonest that we all can get together and let's sit down. There are some, it sounds like some communication things, and let's clear the air and move forward. I think part of the communication, confusion with the 10 PM is the community garden is open till 10 PM. But again, I would like for us to discuss that with Lisa, with the GM and the subcommittee, and make sure that we're all on the same page. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's perfect, I'm trying to figure out why this is being brought up.
Yeah.
And, he's making it seem like I've been notified and I haven't.
Right, so
Making it
let's,
sound like I'm
Yeah.
not doing my job.
Yeah.
It was announced at a meeting.
but,
What meeting?
so again, let's sit down with the subcommittee and make sure that we're all on the same page and clear the air, and then we can go from there.
I think, maybe, I kind of catch on.
Yeah,
I think,
absolutely.
you know, we talked about the budget too, I think that, because I think part of, I mean, and this is not a knock on you, because you deserve time to be away, and we are trying to save some money, because we know that when we have y'all at the meetings and there's nothing going on, y'all could be patrolling, doing other stuff, versus just sitting here watching us, right? That after y'all make the report frequently, y'all don't have any further need for to be here, right? And we're just kind of, I'll be honest, kind of wasting your time by making you stay here.
And
But we've done, I guess the thing is, we've done a lot of changes in the last month or two, and like, we didn't have y'all come to all the budget meetings, like, I guess, especially for my part on the budget end, for y'all attending the meetings, like, I kind of figured that y'all would be talking about this in the subcommittee for security, right? But so some of the stuff, like, it's not on, all of it it's not like all on you to know that, like, we changed all this stuff, because you weren't here for all of it, so like, and that's not a knock on you, because we didn't ask you to come to all things, but there is stuff that's changed. I get that we're trying to work through some new stuff, so, and it's not just, aside from all this, like, there's definitely some, I think, some board policy, budget-related changes we made, particularly about y'all's attendance of the meetings, right? So, again, like, we kind of figured we kind of work through this with y'all, as you got in the swing of things in the fall, and budget just is gonna become effective October 1st, right? So, like, I mean, it's technically not in effect yet.
Yeah, and
But so I guess it was just, we were toward that budget, so we had all those meetings in August, and so just wanted to make sure you're aware of that, because I don't expect you to sit at home and stream our meetings when you're not here.
Yeah.
We know you have other things to do. So, but I just from that perspective, we spent a lot of time hashing out some ways to save money in the budget, that is something that is, you know, we appreciate what you do and want you to be here to comment, but at the same time, like, we felt like we were keeping y'all here. When we're paying you, we could have you do something else to help the community, because sitting here while we're talking about,
And I,
you
and
know,
I agree with
rules
that
doesn't really help
100%.
you help the community, so.
But I guess like, what I'm saying is, Director Young is telling my deputy that I've been relayed information and I haven't, which is making me look like a bad contract holder.
Well, and I think that's what Director Logan is saying about trying to talk with us, but I'm just trying to give you some color that, like, we did make some changes, I guess. So, I'm not saying, again, like, we didn't have you come to all the budget meetings, right? So, again, like, some of these things are kind of more forward-looking, so, but again, that's more.
But we definitely, we need to clear the communication, so
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to get us to do, is sit down and
So,
get us all.
I've been escorted from Humana Park twice now, and the first time, we brought it up at a general board meeting like this. I had asked for the body cam footage because I was being misquoted and mischaracterized. And, I asked you to approach people and have your deputies turn on the body cam, for the interactions, right? Did that happen? And so did you give those guys that instruction?
To what, to lock the gates at dusk?
No, to use body cam when approaching.
Yes, I
and-
did.
Okay, so you have the body cam footage this time?
What if I said I don't?
Okay, then,
Are you gonna say you didn't say these things?
no, I wanna get to the bottom of what was said. Let's
Well,
look at the body
I
cam
told you
footage.
what you said.
If you are to say, hey, I will
Okay,
have
so
all the
are you
officers,
saying you didn't say these things?
that is correct.
Okay,
Okay.
And it was your deputy's duty to turn on the body cam, and it was your direction. Why would he not be doing what he's told? And another
so
thing
you're
that we
saying
talked
you did
about,
not say these things?
that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, it's a third person account now, right?
There's
You could
body
have
cam
brought Detective
There's
Bartlett
body cam video.
to come in here. There is, okay,
Yes.
then let's go through it at a
You
meeting.
can do an open records request to receive it. I wrote this while watching the entire thing,
Okay, great.
but you just denied you said any of these things.
I agree, I did not. Let's get to the bottom of it.
Okay, so
So,
I think
I
what we
think-
need to do
Let's get
is,
to the bottom of
okay,
it.
Director Young, what we need to do is sit down with the subcommittee and do what we need to talk about and clear the air and figure out how we're gonna go forward. There's obviously some things that we need to work out.
And I'm also gonna ask my Chief David to come and sit down with it too.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. There are some other things
That's
that
a good thing.
we do wanna talk to you about in the next meeting, which is we talked about doing the town hall. And we wanna do that in September, October, so if we could meet maybe in the next 2 weeks, if your schedule allows that, that would be great, cause we really do wanna get to the town hall. And then, we do wanna talk about your hours, because I think, I haven't looked at it, but a month ago, we hadn't utilized as many hours. And, there's been some articles out there about that you guys are pretty thin, you know, in Wilco, and, so we just wanna talk about that and how we can, we contracted with y'all for so many hours, and we wanna make sure that you guys can do that out here. We all really do appreciate you being out here, and we just need to be able to work together with the GM, with the subcommittee, with the full board, okay?
I agree.
So another item, the last time I was escorted from Romano Park was when you did speak, you said, come to me first, right? Giving direction or whatever. I was just having a chat with the detective. I didn't have any problems. I wasn't saying close things earlier or not, but when you say come to me first, I took you for your word. Well, why aren't you coming to me first? Or going to the GM first? Why would you bring it and
Okay.
blow it up as
Because
big as
I
you
think
can?
I wanted to
Director
see,
Young,
I wanted to see the body cam video first.
Okay, so,
I think Director, and I think we're getting a little bit
we
off
are,
the agenda.
and
before-
I
mean,
wanna
your
take this
report, and
into
so-
a subcommittee, and then we'll bring it out to the full board, so, it'll be transparent to everyone, but,
And plus, I was also told that I can't go to the directors, that I have to go through the GM first. So how can I bring it to you?
okay,
Well,
so,
I think this
Bring it
is
to
the
the
stuff that
side.
we're talking about, and we wanna have y'all discuss. I mean, I'm not on that subcommittee, so I can't,
yeah,
and like I said, we're gonna getting off the agenda, right? We gotta stay on the agenda,
Yeah.
but
let's,
that's why I was mentioning, we made some budget changes, that helped a lot with that, and there's some other stuff, and I think,
yeah, there's several things
And
we
again,
want.
the agenda only has the month of August in there. Yeah, you're bringing up an item that's in the
Okay,
September.
so again, Director Young, let's get this to the subcommittee, and let's clear it, let's move forward and see what we can do, okay?
Sounds good.
Alright, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks. Okay,
Hey, I got one more thing on Camano Park.
Yeah.
The double chain link gates.
yeah,
Our blockhouse lock is missing.
oh, it
And
is,
our key don't fit any lock on there. There's like 4 combos and 3 masters, and we can't access the facility to check the building.
You still know the combo to get into the garden center gate?
it's the
I
address.
think that got
let's-
changed, right?
Deputy Fox, is that the first set of gates?
The first double set.
Okay,
No,
we'll get-
the chain link gates that go into the facility.
Okay, the chain link fence that go into the,
So,
I'll get that taken care of for you.
yeah, we used to have a key.
Okay, we'll get
You
it.
get a
And he'll
code
tell you
for
the
now, so
code.
we can get it fixed.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on then, thank you. PR and Communications Subcommittee, Special Events. Do you have anything on special events?
I apologize, I don't have anything on special
Okay,
events.
that's good. Newsletter?
On the newsletter, we're actually working on an October newsletter. Unfortunately, we are going to have to ask, that we get an approval of a not to exceed $2,500 in order to get the October newsletter out by by September the 30th or October the 1st. If we don't get this approval, we actually won't be able to send out a newsletter until October the 18th, which kind of defeats the purpose of the newsletter, considering there's a lot of information in it.
Do we normally have to approve the amount for the newsletter?
Normally you don't, because
Okay.
we have been putting it in with the billing, but the
Okay.
billing is, we're gonna be pushing it out before the billing,
Okay.
yes ma'am.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the not to exceed $2,500 to get the newsletter out?
Motion.
Second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Okay, C, proposal from CDMP, approved on March. Sean, you wanna start this?
Yeah, so I got some questions about, so CDMP, just to recap for everyone, is the group that was hired to conduct the resident survey, do some help with the newsletter, some additional consulting. And so there was a recent subcommittee meeting and some things kind of came out of that, and so I just looked back, did a little bit of due diligence to confirm. It was on March 22nd of this year when that proposal was approved. It was a time and materials proposal. I think it was for a total of $38,000, with several things to be billed as they've been undertaken. Corresponded with Taylor. I think we have only paid out, Taylor, my recollection is 6 to 8K in invoices that have come across so far. So just kind of wanted to bring you guys up to speed on what the proposal was. There may be additional discussion about, I was not at the subcommittee meeting that occurred, but just wanted to give a little bit of background about the actual proposal. To be sure, you guys, there's a 7-day out, I think, for the party within the proposal. If for any reason that was a path that you wanted to pursue.
Okay, Lisa, do you want to add to that?
Really, the only thing that I have to add to it is I know that initially, whenever we engaged with CDNP, we did have them, again, create the newsletter. I think that Amy has been managing the newsletter well. I don't want to say that they didn't do a great job, but I think Amy's doing a great job, and we don't really need assistance in that. In regards to the survey, I do believe that we would be able to gather the questions from our board members and put a good SurveyMonkey together. SurveyMonkey does manage IP addresses, so we wouldn't have to worry about any duplications from any residents. So I feel like this is probably something that we could accomplish in-house.
Okay, Director Young, you're on that subcommittee, so do you want to share the reasons for basically getting out of this contract?
This was one of the items that I campaigned on. So I might be a little intense when I meet with contractors on the topic. We had a first meeting with them to discuss what they proposed as questions. One of the items that I really wanted to be on there had to do with park hours, and
I think all the directors wanted that on there, yeah.
right. At some point, you know, looking through the questions, that wasn't on there. I don't think that this is anything that's like deal breaker or whatever. You know, it's a first draft, a rough draft, but just the fact that it had been left off. I felt like some of the questions weren't really actionable. I was looking for actionable things like, how's the board doing? And like, we don't have any real direction just yet from the residents to react to what they want. So I wasn't really happy with the questions at that time. So what I said was that what I'd like to do is you guys hold off on writing any more questions or processing this. I went through the entire meeting. I made
The workshop that we had.
the workshop. I made notes of every item that residents brought up. I made notes of every
Director
item that
Shoemaker, it's here.
different. Yeah, so, and there's like a red line, even though you guys can't see the red on yours, but that's what I'd produced. I did that, and I threw out some just rough sample questions. I felt like it was clear that the next meeting, what we're gonna do is we're gonna hone in on the questions. Maybe if I missed a topic from the meeting, maybe they could add it. Maybe if I misnoted something, then maybe they could take it away, whatever. But when we got to the recent meeting 8 days ago, we didn't get a copy of their next proposed one, even though it was an online meeting. So I'm not even sure Director Roberts got it. She did make it to this meeting though. They copy and pasted my email. They missed some of it. The next thing is Nicole started into a discussion on policy. She's telling me that the parks need to close at 8 o'clock now, and we shouldn't really give options because that's going to cost residents more money for additional security patrols. And I was just perplexed at why are we going into this? This is something that we wanted her to do an unbiased question, but then she's telling us policy recommendations, which I don't believe we did contract them for. So I ended up pretty frustrated at that meeting. I don't know if they've got somebody else that they want to put on the project. Another item that she pointed out is she said that she'd spent time researching hours of the local
entities, which, if you guys will remember, I've already done that, I've already put it into a packet. Everything was, closed at 10 PM or later, yet she came up with some research that she didn't share any, information on, like where it was, that all the parks in the local area closed at 8 PM. So, I asked her if she researched it, she said she did. I don't believe we were paying them to research park hours in the area. I believe that we were paying them to help us administer and get the opinions of residents in the direction that they want the board to go. So I felt like we've made very little progress with them, and at this point, it's been kind of a failure so far. I know that we wanted to get the survey done before tax season, but, you know, different delays. I can't really say I'd pin that on them, but, I'm just, it's been frustrating.
Okay.
So real quick, in the handout, is any, which, is this handout that y'all have here, just Director Logan or Lisa? Is this, which part of this did these folks generate?
Okay, this is my email in black, that was their
Okay.
red lines, and
Thank
then this is the resulting questions that they came up with.
Okay, so
but-
the stuff at the back, like I was looking, the stuff
Right.
where it has a second header is the. is
Right,
there.
that's the questions, which essentially a lot of those are just redoing what I had done. I'm not sure that my
So-
verbiage is where we need to end up.
Yeah, so, Shamir, just.
Thank you, I was just curious what product they've given us on
Yeah.
that, 'cause that's,
So,
well, I was kinda curious, yeah, cause I was thinking like, you know, on the subcommittee, I was kinda getting the point like, is they ever going to provide
Yeah.
product to us? I know we haven't paid them much, but I haven't seen it in the
Yeah.
bills, but I was kinda getting wonder like if something had happened, like if someone, you know, our person had gotten sick or been reassigned or.
yeah, so, just to fill you in on my take of it, it has been way delayed. And we did have a conversation at the board table about the newsletter, and I remember even Director Roberts was, you know, like, yeah, Amy and Lisa have really done equal or if not better job of the newsletter.
Yeah, I totally agree on the loser, I think we got that.
So that first work product wasn't a wow, they didn't hit it out of the park.
Mhm.
And then, to see that, I remember one of the last few meetings, you came back and we asked you where the survey was, and you said, yeah, well, they really didn't pick anything up out of the workshop. You had to go back and pull information and submit it to them. And then your third meeting with them, the work product was pretty poor. And you can see even, when it says NH, that's the representative, on park bonds, she's asking here, has this been approved or what funds will be used? So if she had done her homework, she would have seen that the
Later-
bonds had been approved.
Later on in my notes and the questions, it said in 2020, the park bond was passed.
Well, and we made it pretty clear that all of our meetings are recorded, so I would have thought that they were going back and watching our meetings, if one even to just pull together a newsletter and to pull the survey together. And I'm sure you recall Director Shoemaker, Director Johnson, probably every other meeting, and you have as well. Anytime we talked about park hours or changing the park rules, we said, we want to wait to hear what the residents want. So, and it's interesting because the first question actually is written okay, I mean, I would change the options, but it just says, please indicate your preference for park or green spaces. But instead, the representative went into how she thought the policy should be set, which is way out of their scope and, not what she should, that's not what we hired them for.
Well, and honestly, that's what I was asking, because I was looking like, I think we had vastly more detailed, vastly more detailed information from the neighborhood about the park, because I mean, I think.
Yeah, that's not good, those options there are not, so.
Well, no, just like, I think in the initial one, like, we had, you know, green space, amenities requiring light at night, requiring no light at night, right? You know, we had several different categories,
Yeah.
and we got kind of three there, but I think that, I feel like that honestly, if we're gonna ask the residents, I think that, you know, they should have probably some option to specify when it comes to night hours.
Yeah.
What night hours, if it should be seasonal, right? And I was kind of hoping that they would
Where-
help us, through their experience, dig into ways to get more information for folks in a non-biased way. And some kind of, this is kind of disappointing work product, honestly.
So, in my mind, it's like the third strike. They've had produced 3 different products of work, and all 3 have been, at least 2 have been kind of a failure. There's additional stuff that you do need to be aware of. The meeting, was not a good meeting, it was called within 25 minutes.
Mhm.
It's recorded, Sean can send you the link.
Okay.
It was pretty bad on everyone's part, but the representative, was out of line in a lot of areas. And, so I do think it's time to just go ahead and cease, working with them. Unfortunately, I was really excited, I thought they were to do some pretty cool things. And then let's go back and see if we can't, as a board, write impartial questions, and it may take a couple of drafts, and have Lisa and Amy run it. But right now, we're spinning our wheels, and we're not producing anything, and we need to get a survey out.
Yeah, well, I think honestly, I'll just say this, like, I think that I definitely concur in that we should not assign them any more work. Like, we may want to wait a little bit to figure out how we get out and what all that comes up to, but, maybe we try some other avenues to find someone who can help with the impartiality of the questions, right? Just on that aspect alone. I think that's the part that's the tough, I know from
That was what we
experience, that's the toughest part to get right. You have implicit bias when you write stuff, and, I'm not saying we're doing a bad job, but that's the piece you really gotta watch. As soon as you think nothing matters and people steer, right?
Well,
That's why the grocery store always makes you go to the right?
Here's
So-
a perfect example, let me just show you on the, if they're supposed to be putting together impartial questions, it says Blockhouse owns and maintains several sections of the fence, most notably the fence on both sides of the 3-mile loop. What approach would you like done with the fence? 1, keep and maintain the current stone columns with stained wooden fence, or upgrade to a different material to add value.
Yeah, I'm like,
So that was a reiteration of my,
there's
proposed
also-
question, but
there's also no implication, one thing that we wanted to talk to was like, people might want to upgrade the fence, but they may not be willing to pay the cost. There was this is a two-part, this is the kind of stuff I was hoping to have their
The
input.
tax, yeah.
Just the tax implications, but also the time, like, this is, if you're gonna put it to different materials, it's gonna require actual construction work in your backyard, like, I was hoping to help, so, this is.
So,
And also just wanted to sparse and stuff, I get people don't wanna take a massively long survey, but I think one of the things we kind of discussed was potentially breaking these into multiple pieces, so they're not overly long, so there's not ballot fatigue. And they seem to have put everything, 'cause I kind of took this as, maybe I'm wrong on my recollection of our discussion directed to them, was that this was gonna be 2 surveys. There was gonna be a park-related survey with the hours and amenities and the bond, and then we'd have a second survey related more to operations and budget. It's like the deputy hours, the tax
Right.
rates, the bulk item collection. So, I thought at the time we were asking for 2 surveys.
Okay, so I think all 3, yes.
So I'm concerned that for this to get done right,
Yeah.
we're putting a lot of work on Amy and Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Also,
they're
I
not-
wanted to get help.
what?
That's also I wanted to get help to.
And then,
not
and then,
force
if-
our staff
and
to
then,
do that.
and then to avoid the walking quorum issues, because we either have to do more workshops, or we need to have, like, everybody okay, here's the latest drafts, Lisa sends it to everybody, we throw our edits in there, and then we're like, hey, we want it to be a little bit more like this, or a little more like that. I'd rather have a third party, involved, but on a very minimal level. Unless, of course, Lisa thinks that her and Amy are up for the task, and
I'm sure they could, I think they could do it, but that gets back to the point you made where at least in my end, I don't think we have a lot of other immediate things we need y'all to do. And again, like, there are people who do this for a living, and I thought we
Yeah.
were retaining that.
I would rather just dip our toe in with another
Okay,
company.
so,
and do that.
so the agenda item is with CPMD. So let's CDMP, sorry. Sean, do we need to notify them, or what do we need to do to just say don't do any more work with us? Or-
I think if you guys are looking to pull away from the CDMP proposal, I think we would be looking to terminate that agreement just directly to let them know that we're giving our notice under the agreement.
Okay, so let's go ahead, are you all okay giving?
Can I ask a quick question? Just maybe, I'm not trying to be lazy here, but seeing as we have a not to exceed, if we don't assign them any more work and they've got a fixed term, if we just let them know we don't plan to assign them any more work and some of the thing run its course, we don't have to have you spend the money in your time to write. I'm kind of like, since we're not on the hook for anything else, and this will expire in by the end of the year from when it was done, like this coming March, I'm kind of thinking the answer is simply just let them know we'll call you if we need you, and then just let the contract run its course. So you don't have to spend any time writing a letter, you're gonna have to bill an hour or something to do it, so why do it when we're gonna just simply not use them? If that's not acceptable legally, that's fine, but I just wanna run that by to try to be conservative on the money
Yeah, I
here.
think it would be safest just to send, and
Okay.
it can be, I can work with Lisa, just to send, yeah, I mean, it's 7-day notice, and it's probably a 3-sentence letter, so.
Okay, do we need to take a vote, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so do I have a motion to, have Lisa and Sean work together to let CDP notify them that we're no longer gonna
A motion.
continue work with them? Second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, any more discussion?
This is very disappointing.
Oh, it is, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Transparency, I don't think we have anything on that, we just, okay, so 15, discussing the resident survey.
So, moving forward then, can we ask Lisa to look into an alternative, company on that? Or to volunteer her time?
My purpose would be to ask her at this point to look for an alternative company. I
Yeah.
wanna get this out, but
There's gonna be tons of companies that do this, so.
Right, I gotcha.
That'll be a directive for the GM to look for a new company.
And, I would just recommend from a practical process perspective, I feel like you guys don't need to come up with the ideas, you have the ideas, right? And so I think what really my sense here is that we just need help with the polishing for the specific format that it needs to be in. I'm certainly not volunteering to do it, I think there's some nuance.
well, then, I think this list that you provided them, Director Young, like this first part of our list of things, right? In my recollection, and Director Johnson or Providence aren't here, but my recollection is everything I remember anybody talking about, both resident or on the board or campaign or anywhere else, is on this main list. Like I think we've
Except
got,
for the stuff that they cut off.
yeah, those
On the
the
resident.
list we gave them, or you gave them, I think has everything. So to Sean's point, I don't think we're.
Okay,
And maybe we're better armed now at this point, and
Yeah.
maybe just polish it up, and then that way when we.
I certainly know there's some polishing that I could do and kind of like frame the questions so that residents understand, like, if you vote in favor of more parks, then you're also voting in favor of more taxes.
Yeah.
Or if you want more security patrols, more right? So it'll be framed that way, but, I think, I don't wanna have a lot of budget for whoever helps us,
Okay.
in
all
case.
right, well, let's figure that out, let's let her bring, couple ideas to us, okay? Let's move on, 16, restricted covenants.
We don't have anything to really report, but Director Johnson and I had talked about going into executive with Sean Griffin on a camera-related issue. So just wanted to put some on the radar and something.
Do you wanna go into executive tonight, or do you wanna wait till Johnson's?
I was gonna, we can go into executive then briefly if you want to. I can give you a very brief high-level update, but I'd like to discuss it further with Director Johnson here.
Okay, well, why don't we then just wait,
Okay.
if that's,
Well, but
or you could talk
well,
to
actually,
Sean directly.
well, I'm trying to think, there's a couple.
I'm just
moving
thinking that
parts.
we have 2 directors missing, so if you need to talk to Sean about something, you can do that with him one-on-one.
Well, I'm thinking, let's do executive to be safe. So
Okay.
I wanna make sure with some issue, a couple issues with Sean, make sure, because I think we could probably ultimately deal with it later, but I wanna make sure. But since
Okay, let's
I
do it
think
at the
someone
end.
relies on his advice, like, about some things that,
Okay, so just remind me at the end that we're gonna
Will
go
do.
into a very brief executive
yeah,
session.
it shouldn't take very long at all.
Okay, anything on 15-361 English River Loop?
No, not this time.
Okay, we do have their, contract that we'll talk about here in a second,
Mhm.
finance and audit.
All right, you'll have a copy of your bookkeeping report in front of you. I really don't have anything out of the ordinary. We do have one supplemental check, 21950, just for your credit card. It's for $80.23.
What?
Very small. Other than that, kind of the normal financials. Obviously, next month you'll see a complete information for September. For fiscal year 2023, we did have 2 transfers and no investments for your approval today.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve bills and invoices and the 2 transfers? I need a motion.
Motion. Would you
Second.
like to second it?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
In favor?
Aye, yes, sorry.
Okay, one thing
Sean
just,
grabbed your paper, so make sure you had it.
one thing from the,
This is just a report.
Bills and Invoices Subcommittee, Director Johnson and I discussed, now that we're on the OWL and we're actually live, and we talked to Taylor about this, going forward, we're gonna have Taylor, just dial in, basically, to the meeting. She doesn't have to be here in person. Maybe she'll show up once a quarter during budgets, if there's something specific we need her here in person. But that also be a cost savings, that she isn't to travel, and it's actually, I'm sure Taylor appreciates it. So, we're gonna go ahead and move forward. We don't need a motion or anything on that. I did talk to Sean, I think it was was it this our discussion on the signing of the checks?
Yeah.
So, the one thing is, maybe next month we'll have it on the agenda for a resolution to give you the power to sign our checks.
Okay.
If you're comfortable with that, but we can discuss that next month in our meeting, and then you can talk to Sean about it as well.
We
Okay.
also have set it up too on some districts where the GM signs. Because again, it just removes us, we're reconciling the bank statement, so it just has that extra layer of protection. But we can obviously talk about that in the
Yeah.
fest.
Yeah, let's discuss it
Yeah.
at the next B&I meeting, and then we'll bring it to the agenda next month, okay?
Yeah.
Again, just trying to streamline things and make it more efficient, so good. Okay, amenities, report from Premier Recreation, Mark.
Well, thank you. It's been a great summer. We ended the summer without having to close anything down. We kept all the pools open the entire time.
All the slides open?
All the slides open the entire time. There were a few times that we, the staff were in the guard room because we had one family there at a time. And we just let them know, hey, if you want to use the slide, come get us. And, you know, we closed it up and secured it. Towards the end of the summer when it was 108 degrees outside and one family at the pool, that's the only time we would do that. Otherwise, we'd have people out there the whole time. We were able to extend the hours a little bit, open Apache up one of the weekends that was originally scheduled to be closed. And, yeah, everything's going pretty well. Only issues we've had, the splash pad and waterfall have been, not operational for some of the, at the end of the summer. I know, Pro Aquatics knows about the issues, it's a pump issue, on that, so I think they were bringing proposals for you, to get that fixed. But overall, it's been pretty good. Worked with the swim team, on September 14th, after the storm that morning, the pumps were out, so I was able to get up there within 30 minutes and reset it. They didn't lose any practice time because chemicals were good, and we were able to do that. For some reason, it happened again this morning, actually, they called me. And I was in San Antonio, but I headed back here and was able to get it reset. But it was right at the end of their practice that it faulted, so I'll let the rest know about that as well.
Great.
And then I think we have the contract at the end of the meeting, so we can talk about that.
Yep.
at that time.
You want to do that now?
We can go ahead and do it now, actually, even that way you can take off. So, we have we just contracted our emergency basis with you to keep pools open during the summer. You did a fantastic job. I think I've heard from all the directors, have been very pleased. I told you I've been to the pools, and I know your staff didn't know who I was, and they were fantastic and professional, and you've done a great job communicating with the staff. So I personally want to thank you. So the new contract is for a year, expire September 30th of 2023. As for a total of $305,000. What I thought was really exciting was when we met with you this week, we had been tasked, we were gonna ask you to increase hours at Apache Pool because residents have really been asking that, and you said it before we could even say it to you. So that was fantastic. Sean is passing around the, I guess the one page. So do I have a motion to approve their new contract for 12 months? The one thing that is a little different than what we've done in the past is, it's $15,000 a month for 7 months, and then $40,000 a month, May through September. And that's their busy month where they have to make payroll, which is a little different. In the past, we just split it 12 months, and so we were paying a high amount. So this kind of makes sense?
I think this makes more sense, because I think we got a little gist.
Yeah, well, okay. So, do I have a motion to approve the new contract?
Motion.
A second.
Second.
Any more discussion? Lisa, do you have anything to add? I mean, you've been happy working
I
around
think
this.
Premier Recreation's awesome.
I'm really excited to have you here, Mark, and I look forward to talking with you in January about some other options that we'll be able to bring to the district, so I'm glad to have you here.
And that is something we talked about, is doing water aerobics and swim lessons for kiddos. So that wouldn't impact the contract because that would be a direct cost to residents.
I do have one question for you.
Sure.
One of the benefits I've used at Ratan Creek is, I've set up a ringed out system, which is a one-way texting system that residents can sign up for. They text a keyword to a number, and then whenever we have to close the pool unexpectedly, whether it's a accidental people release or lightning somewhere in the area, that we send out a text, and we can't respond to it, they can't respond to it at all, it's just a one-way system.
So do the emoji with the poo on it?
No, it's very limited, it's 150 characters, I don't do any emojis or anything, but, it's just a benefit to the residents to let them know, hey, we're closed this time, that's something that my company pays for and.
That's a great idea. Will you work with Lisa on that, and let's communicate that.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. All in favor of the
Real
motion?
quick, making sure this is item 33, right? That I-
Yes.
Okay, that's all I had a question on.
Yep, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Cass. Thank you, Mark. Okay, woo, we got a lot of stuff to do with priority landscape. Tripp, you're up.
Yeah, so, just, I guess we'll go straight to proposals, I think that's what you guys are wanting to get through. So these are basically all for this fiscal year to get us through the budget, if I understand correctly, to maximize what you can. So there's, opportunity 2063, disc golf course, boulders, one boulder each hole.
Which will
This
show
is-
the whole
This will
number?
just be for materials, but, what's that?
These boulders will show the number of the hole?
That's what they will be for, yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, so,
The number will not come on them yet, though. This is just to purchase just the boulder itself, but yes, on a future date, we will have that.
so the problem has been the high dollar painted signs that are made out of metal keep disappearing as collector items, and, Wilco's had those for decades, just the boulders, and they weld on a number.
Or
And,
paint on or whatever, yeah.
Right, so I think we're looking at a more permanent solution, less vandal ready.
Okay, so again, this is gonna come out of this fiscal year. All these monies are available. So do I have a motion to approve 2863?
It's gonna be dependent upon when the work is completed, so it just depends on when Trip can schedule it. Obviously, we're like a couple days away from the end of the fiscal year, so it's when the work is completed is when it would be. But if you look at your budget, there's really not wiggle room in landscaping any longer, so it really needs to fall in next year's budget.
Oh, okay. So when the work's completed, meaning if you purchase the boulders or when they're delivered?
That's what I was gonna ask.
It would be when they're purchased,
Okay,
but,
By the district, yes.
right, yeah.
So that shouldn't be a problem,
okay.
right?
Can you source boulders in 3 days or so?
We've been working on this already, so
I'm
just in
joking.
case we were on task for it.
Some preparation.
Okay, so do I have a motion for 2863 in the amount of $4,500?
Well, can I ask a follow-up question real quick? Because, Taylor, you mentioned like, so this is going, the current year budget of Trip purchased them, but we have 4,500 in landscaping available. Like, what do we have left in landscaping for the fiscal year?
If you look at your financial report, we're about to hit like right on the money for landscaping.
But didn't we have money in other places?
We
that-
do, yeah.
Well, this is kind of, yeah, so I was going into,
Yeah.
so.
I think we had just around 100K that we had not spent. Total.
In maintenance, I believe maintenance.
Yeah, there's several buckets, but I just wanted to make sure y'all understood landscaping did not have any
Okay.
room in the budget.
Okay, so a motion to approve this one?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, B.
So this one is just for the piece of equipment for maintaining the chance field. And I listed everything on there exactly as cost and markup, and, I think it's pretty important that we have that to maintain the field that we have or you all have just approved and has been completed.
Will that be stored here?
I would like for it to be stored here, yes, if we can.
Okay, do we have a spot
Can
for
I
it?
ask a question about the field, please?
Yes.
Why is it that it's a dirt field as opposed to having grass in the middle? Is it just intended to be a softball field, or is that just the way it was
I
constructed?
think that's going kind of more multi-use, just all there, yeah.
Good question though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really supposed to just be a practice field,
Mhm.
so, yeah. Okay, so this is proposal,
Never mind.
go ahead.
Is it more complicated from a maintenance perspective to keep it dirt?
Yes, no, it's easier dirt.
Easier dirt, okay.
Yes, because you're always dealing with the grass growing in, just a little more work.
Okay.
Is this another item we're trying to get into this year's budget?
Yes.
Because, okay,
Okay, so it's proposal 2867 is for $20,000. There's a beautiful picture in our packet, this little green machine. And it would be stored here. Do I have a motion to approve?
Can I ask a question? Or
yeah, I think we need to discuss it. I
Okay,
wanna
so
make
let's do a
sure.
motion and then,
Okay, motion.
motion seconds we can discuss.
okay, discussion.
I'm concerned about buying this great new wonderful shiny machine and then not having a place to keep it protected from the elements, certainly over the winter. Is this something that we can, I mean, I think we need to budget for somehow to protect it from the elements at some level.
Is there room in the little shed over here?
There is not room in the little shed, but what Tripp and I have been discussing is having Priority Landscape bring out a Connex, put it behind the Germano building. That would allow for them to mobilize a lot sooner, also to be able to store this equipment as well as other equipment that they have. That'll definitely help us overall with their total contract in general. So that would give us the opportunity to be able to have that place stored, and we can manage this thing year to year until we're able to, you know, have that money to be able to put it in a different place if needed.
So it'd be priority storage space for their items, so they would take care
Here
of
at
the
Jumano.
cost of that at Jumano?
Yes, sir, that is
Okay.
correct.
Tripp, do you have any other baseball fields that you maintain for other districts or areas that you might wanna go have with us on it?
No, not right now.
Okay.
I wish I could say yes.
Well, especially if they had an excess of storage area.
Yeah, that's kind of my one, yeah, 'cause I guess the other thing is like, are you gonna, so you're gonna have to drive it from Jumano back up to the front every time you use it? Okay.
We would haul it. I mean,
You're hauling, yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to try and drive it.
But you haul
Actually,
stuff around all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Skid steer and that kind of thing. And how important is it to have this to help us maintain? Because I know we've been spending a lot of money on the field because we haven't maintained it the proper way. Is this gonna save us money
Yes, I believe it will.
if we're maintaining it correctly? I mean, I know
It'll
20
be
grand's a lot.
maintained correctly, it's gonna be safer, it's gonna be, I mean, the spike drag is gonna help maintain the integrity of the.
Yeah, and I know that we have had comments from residents about the safety issue and that type of thing over the years, but I know recently we've heard some discussion.
What was the price on this again?
20. And it's refurbished. There's a pretty
Oh,
picture in the packet.
That's better. Yeah, I saw the picture, I just didn't recall it.
How often do you think you'll ever use it? Like every week, every
Oh,
month?
yeah, probably 3 times.
But our reservations on this field are packed.
No, I'm asking like how often, like,
Yeah, so during, especially when it's being used, when the field's being used, it'll be probably 3 times a week, that's why we kind of.
Wow.
okay.
And is that probably like February through May and August through November?
Yeah.
And
It's the majority of the year.
another thing that happened when we weren't doing the maintenance is the home plate
Mm-hmm.
kind of started to elevate over time, which is, you know, that's the most important place to be sliding into, to have that there.
The
So
places
if
are-
they're gonna be conditioning the dirt, it's gonna be a safety thing. I just wish it wasn't so expensive, and I wish we already had a shed for it.
I mean, I'll offer to, you know, until we can get a Connex or a shed or whatever, we can haul it back and forth for that period of time, I have no problem with that.
Okay,
As long as we're kind of headed in the direction, it would be
Yeah.
easier.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, maybe we, as we clean up in the Humano building,
Maybe if you go
on the
inside.
hot side, doesn't need to be air conditioned, so, that might be a.
Yeah, just gotta make sure it's safe from vandals.
Right, okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. It passed. Okay, C, proposal 2938.
So this is, work to be done in trails, mostly, primarily, there's several areas that need to be done, considering, as well as cleaning fire break areas. And it kind of is what it is as far as it's laid.
So- I've noticed there are some bigger piles throughout Humano, even though it may not be on a designated trail. If you guys finish early on time with the proposal, do we still get you for the rest of the day to get some of those? I know that, out there by the pump station, there were some big piles of brush out there that you guys did get recently, but those are kind of throughout Humano. and this is gonna be a process over time.
So I will say this, there is so much work, we're gonna need a whole lot more than this to get done. So if you want to tell us what to do, I can.
Prioritize, okay. Yeah, we'll just work through, Lisa on this.
And
but-
we're working on your contract, which we'll bring next month, that'll, kind of show us, I guess, utilize your time the best, okay?
And I think my intention on that contract is to turn all that blue area into at least once a year, everything gets touched.
We'll talk about that
Sorry.
when that's in
Yeah.
there. Proposal 2938.
And this is the next fiscal year item, because when he's gonna do it is next fiscal year, right?
Actually, we've got them working on it now. We have them, we will have them mobilized and working on it within these next 4 days to be able to get a lot of the clearing done.
So the majority of this can fall in this year. It'll be fantastic. Okay. All in
I
favor?
mean, this needs to be done.
Yeah.
Aye.
It was the fire break, definitely.
I'm sorry, did we-
No,
Oh, sorry.
do a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll motion, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next, which is 2964.
This is for certified arbor, 3 days as well. And, I mean, that's what is proposed. And after.
We're on 64, the plants in the back.
This is my Walker House, plants after my, porch and all of the
Oh, I'm
skirting
sorry.
was done.
I'm sorry, I skipped it. So yeah, that's just the plant material for the installation back by the fence we discussed in previous meetings.
Okay, motion to approve 2964 for 1495. 1,495.
Motion.
Second?
I would actually like to push this, not because we don't want to do it, but I know we're trying to get this controlled, I'd like to get some of the trees and stuff done once the drought breaks. I would like to kind of, go through the next budget, like, just get it when we can,
Okay.
the plants will live.
Okay, all right, let's go ahead and
So-
hold that one. Next is proposal 2965, 3 days of pruning. This is your certified arbor.
Yes. So in May, I believe there was proposals for continuing tree work on, that were included in the original survey. And those trees had some reductions and some deadwood, that still needed to be done. Certified arbor suggested doing deadwood first. It's gonna help it, but we're not gonna get everything left, but we'll work on the most important.
Okay, and will this be done?
This
But-
is to be done before the end of this month.
28th through the 30th.
God, look at that,
Thank
that's
you.
impressive.
We
Okay.
run around out here.
Well, I see
can
all
see
a lot,
that.
I see all a lot, so.
Uh,
it's still impressive.
So do I have a motion to approve proposal 2965 for
Motion.
9,000?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Okay, next.
Do you mind if I interject something that
Sure.
I used at the beginning, just to refresh your memory, everyone? 3 board members present, all 3 have to be in favor of anything in order to pass it, just in case you're considering. voting
Yeah.
for anything.
Thank you, Sean. Proposal 2969, purchase of new trees.
This is, actually the proposal shows basically the cost of one tree. If you want to do it, you can specify how much you want to budget for that. And it's a similar situation, these out here, it's just, especially with the winter storm, we definitely want to be getting trees back out there.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of holds my thing on the earlier plans, like, I wanna do this stuff, but I wanna do it once we got, I want that El Nino to kick in, we got good steady rainfall, it's like y'all are barreling for the other trees.
Okay, let's go ahead and hold that one. And then G, proposal for tree and brush cleanup, proposal 2971.
This is just additional services, let me look at my notes here. Yeah, so this was, this is more fire break, it's really can be, there's several areas we can be working in more in Germano. So this is just maximizing the last few days we have of the month and letting you use the budget.
We identified a spot opposite the Monte that was really bad. A resident reached out to us and you guys were able to jump on it yesterday, and so this is kind of part of all that.
Yeah, no, we didn't do that.
So I don't want anybody to think this is all Humano, it's all along the green belt.
North Walker, Black Kettle, we received several phone
Right,
calls as
that's
well.
right.
Yes.
Okay, so a motion to approve,
I'll make a motion.
second,
Second?
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's 2971.
I'm sorry, to be clear, Trip, is this different options in this proposal?
Oh, thank you for saying that, yes, there are, depending on how many workers you want out here, it's just based on an hourly rate.
So I think that quote
That's
is
up
for
to you,
four
you'll need to
workers, 3 days.
specify.
Right, so,
I thought we were approving the 4 workers, 3 days.
yeah,
deal,
yeah,
which I think is fine.
yeah, it's the 9,600.
Okay.
Okay, all right, H, proposal 2972.
So I'm gonna tie this into the next one as well, this is split, but it's essentially parts of one job, 2 parts of one job. And that would be to remove the, small section of artificial turf that's older and smashed, and then remove all the existing grass and replace it with artificial turf. There should be, I think I put a,
That's all attached.
2972 is showing for irrigation controllers,
Yeah, you missed the irrigation.
which I thought, are those, I
I
thought
need
those were.
to wear my glasses.
Those are, I have a question on that, but.
Okay, so this is for the 15,400 for replacement of irrigation controllers in Tomlinson Park, Tonkawa, Comanche,
Yes.
and the main entry.
And I thought we put this in the new budget. Did I imagine that we put like 10,000? I thought we put some in the upcoming budget for this, for some work on the sprinklers for
We
maintenance.
actually even talked about using bond money for it,
Yeah,
and that was another discussion that we had, that we could even spend some of that money next year,
Indeed.
even though we haven't, yeah.
but I just wanna make, just for record's sake, like, everything's kind of this year, but this one is one we had put into the next as well, I think.
Yeah,
If
and
we have money available this year, we could do it, but just noting like,
I don't think you could probably get it done.
That's what I was-
This is just material, this would just be to buy the controllers, it would not be.
Okay, all right, do I have a motion to approve 2971?
Motion.
Second.
7172, right?
72.
Yeah,
I'm
one
sorry,
H, that's right.
72.
Sorry,
I need my glasses.
I move to approve 2972.
A second.
Okay, and this, I'm assuming would help probably with some of the trees and stuff that maybe you're not getting all the water.
This will help with, these are one, getting outdated, they need cleaned up. They will be cellular based, so it will make things much easier for us to manage and save water when we need to water. It's gonna be, it's technology, it's where we're going,
I'm assuming
Estimate
this
how
is gonna
long,
help with the people, the sprinklers coming on during the day.
yes.
estimate how long these new controllers are gonna last.
Ooh, I mean,
They have a 20-year
they
span.
should last forever, I mean, not forever, I don't wanna say that. 10, 15, I mean,
Okay,
Lisa said
Unless
20.
there's
Up to a
lightning.
20-year span.
and please get used to answering that question.
Well, I guess I think
I
to Robert's
hear
question, I think, I'd assume our ground controllers are more than 10, if not 20
They
years
are.
old.
they are.
And some of them
Well,
are battery-based?
Think so.
What's that?
Yeah, some of
Battery
them that are battery-based.
So all of
as
them
well.
on Creek Run and Blockhouse Drive are all battery.
And
But we're not, these are not included because I know there could be potentially fence work and.
Right, yeah,
That's a
no,
whole nother animal, just.
yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
said Tomlinson, Tonkawa, Comanche, and main entry. Okay, I'm sorry, do I have, did we do a motion?
yes,
Okay,
Mhm.
can't keep up. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passed 2982 and then
Synthetic turf.
2983, which is the AstroTurf.
Yes, so that is to remove the existing turf, the small section there, replacing it with one pipe all the way through the whole grass area. And we would be leaving the irrigation in place to be able to allow it to be turned on for cooling.
So total is just over 30,000. This will be in next, pardon me?
Yeah, somewhere close to there.
Yeah. This will be in next year's budget. It's in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
We did put AstroTurf at Apache and it looks fantastic. And the life is 20 years?
15 to 20 years, there's a 15-year warranty on the material, but they've expected it, I mean, it's kind of a 15 to 20-year lifespan.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
I'll make a motion to approve both 2982 and 2983.
Second?
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, last one, 2984, water barrel install and filling for October. And this is just as needed, correct?
Yeah, so if we continue as we have been, and I think Lisa and I discussed it to me, to the 16th, and that's when the burn ban is, am I saying this correctly, Lisa?
Yes.
Will expire. So that's what's in there. I mean, this is kind of an overall price, but I looked it up and there's gonna be about 100 hours, so that, to give you an idea, it's considerably less than what is proposed. And every month has been considerably less than the proposed that we've done the past few months, so.
Good.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to approve 2984 for 13,000?
I wanna discuss it,
I have a motion.
Well, I'll move so we can discuss.
You'll
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay.
So, I wanna save money on this, the good Lord blessed us with a lot of rain recently. I would like to understand why we need the barrel still. I go out in the morning, my grass is doing great, I'm not watering it, the weeds come out nice and easy, so it's not like the middle of a drought. Burn bans are based on an estimate, we're gonna go for 90 days, but they didn't know that we were gonna get 5 inches of rain over a weekend and then a follow-up, another rain. I'm not convinced that we need this. There are a lot of oaks that are not getting any, and they're not doing the best, but they're surviving. And we're on the cusp of, a rainy season. So I'm not sure that we need to be spending money on the barreling. If anything, I would rather start planning where we're gonna be putting irrigation in. I'd rather spend the money on, let's start lining up how much it's gonna cost to run a water line irrigation to some of the stuff in Humano that is in bigger jeopardy of getting lost to drought.
May I speak on that?
Yeah.
So as I mentioned to Trip, I do understand what Director Young is mentioning. However, the Williamson County goes out and whenever they issue a burn ban, they're looking at saturation. And that's something that we are not able to, do ourselves. They're predicting that obviously they're expecting more rain and whatnot after October the 16th. We'd like to follow that plan considering all of the trees in the area in previous have had an opportunity to be able to tap into the Edwards Aquifer in some areas, some vein. However, even given with the video that we watched earlier, that's not a guarantee that that water's there anymore. And so these trees will begin to struggle. And so if we don't provide this water to them, we could eventually probably see them, miss out on needed water for themselves. So that was the perspective that I had given Trip whenever I told him, if we follow a burn ban, then that would be able to give you all a timeline of how long we plan on water barreling.
Well, and I'll say something about burn bans too, from prior experience working with the State Forest Service in the counties too, that there is some about saturation, there is some about total rainfall, but the real kicker they follow is they look at, I forget the name, it's the KBDI, the drought index, right? Which basically that's not just a traditional agricultural drought index or a drought index about planting stuff. A lot of that drought index runs on what they call fuel moisture, right? Where they're looking at what the fuel, basically grass runs on a 2 to 3 day cycle, but woody stuff can run on several weeks. So even if you've gotten rainfall, it can take a week to get into the plant. Basically, they're looking about if people are doing stuff outside like welding, are they inadvertently burning the county down? So you can have a theoretical wetness, but not necessarily be able to burn ban. I would think the prime more pertinent question for our end is actually probably where we are on our total rainfall for the year. I mean, so it's episodic, but also the trees kind of get over the course of the year. I guess, that I think is the real question. I don't know. I know we're down. I'm sure we're down a lot, but I've not had a chance to check how much actual rainfall we got in the last couple rounds.
Yeah, I'm not.
So aquifers can discharge and get low.
Yeah.
They can fill back up, and like they said in the video, we don't know until it's coming out or not. How do we get news on the status of the aquifer and where it's at? And is that something publicly available? Is it monitored? Does anybody know?
Yes.
Yes, Board Development Board will have information on that.
Who put that video together that we watched?
Right.
Yeah.
So our normal rainfall is 18 inches, and this year we have had 14.
Okay. So I think I'm good with voting in favor of this, but I'm looking for better long-term solutions, as we go.
And as he said, this is only for 2 weeks. It's for 220 hours, and you come down.
It'll be closer to 100.
Okay. All right.
So this will probably. So
Yeah.
I guess how much did you spend last month on this? Offhand. Just a reference, or Taylor. Sorry to ask that question. Since we're talking about it's coming in less, might as well quantify that for the record. Because I think our monthly cost, was like in the 13, 14 range for September too. And what we budgeted at least.
Yeah, there were 190 hours
For the month.
for August,
For August.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
Okay.
this will probably be half, but so I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Trip.
You're welcome, thank you all.
Yeah. Okay, report from amenities subcommittee.
Don't really have a report, we did work closely with, Premier Recreation on managing that, so that's really what we were working on.
I feel like there's something that we needed to share, but I can't think of it, so, okay, we'll move on. Services, David Gray is up. So, David, you're on.
Okay, great. A report is under page 145 of your electronic packet. Couple items, one quick and one maybe a little bit longer. One, the first item we put in there is a brief discussion and some exhibits regarding the city of Cedar Park is looking at some CIP drainage improvements to Blockhouse Creek, not within the district, but from 183 westward.
CIP acronym?
Capital Improvements Project.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And so they're looking at that area. That area has been historically subject to flooding periodically. It's a low area. There is arguably some undersizing culverts under 183 that they'll probably look at, but they're just starting to look at that within their engineering department. We'll monitor that report back on you. I had a conversation with the city engineer on that. He didn't have any details. It is not expected to affect the district, but we will be just wanting to monitor it because if they go into a construction phase, we would be normally looking for erosion controls and things like that to minimize possible sedimentation coming down the creek. That should be in the design and be a city project, so I'm not real concerned about that, but we should monitor. So I'll keep you up to date on that.
Okay.
The next item, which may be a little bit longer, is Nebraska Furniture Warehouse. Is they have a project that's located between the district's southern boundary and New Hope Road. They have been before you several times to visit about their project and to essentially brief the board, and for that matter, the residents in the district as to the status of that project. It's a relatively large commercial development. The anchor tenant will be the Furniture Mart, but there will be other tenants in the commercial area. And there's anticipated they will also have pad sites for other uses out in front of it, which is very typical of these types of projects. It's approximately 100 acres, so it's not an insignificant project. They approached the district about tying into the district's storm drainage system, not your water system and not your sewer system, but your storm drainage system. Approximately 20% of their site naturally drains towards the district. So the topography is such that they're not diverting the pattern of drainage, but rather just following the pattern of drainage. Recognizing that many years ago when the drainage improvements were designed and constructed in that portion of our district, primarily along Creek Run Drive, that was recognized. There was an accommodation made in our storm drainage design to accommodate a certain amount of flow that would naturally be occurring from that site into our system. And that is, as that's documented in our construction plans.
That sounds like a great design. Who was the designer on that deal?
Steve Collins used to work for me, not me. Yeah, thank you, I appreciate the ad down there, okay? So, we have a system that, well, let me back up. They have a development that's on property, that portion which naturally drains to our subdivision. And I'm not getting into the issue of commercial development next to the district there. I'm really looking at the engineering aspect of it. So we have built-in accommodation for a certain amount of that. That we have an obligation, if you will, and then we have a design that accommodates flow from undeveloped conditions, just like the area sits right now. When it's developed, there will be impervious cover placed on that associated with the development, and that increases the amount of runoff. The developer of that property, whether it's this particular developer or any other, has an obligation under state law to limit the runoff from that site in a developed condition to what ran off during the undeveloped condition. Hence the word detention. They detain the flow off the property and release it at a slower rate. In this case, they will need to release the water into the district system, which we're downstream, we're accepting the water, and we have accommodation for it, but it cannot exceed the capacity of our system that's originally designed to accept that. They have essentially acknowledged that. Their engineers provide us with a lot of documentation. We're working through that, but that does not seem to be a point of contention, nor does it appear to be something they cannot achieve. So we anticipate that they will demonstrate they can meet that requirement. The other part of that, and they will be responsible for that on their side of the property, those detention facilities, not on our property. They will anticipate making some connections across the district property. I think we've entered into a right of entry agreement to allow them to do some surveying to figure that out. Once those details are worked out, they will present plans for those connections to our office to review and ultimately sign off on behalf of the district. Right now, we're still talking conceptually. Another item of noteworthy is that the quality of the discharge from that site. That site is located in the Edwards Aquifer Recharge Zone. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ, is an acronym, has promulgated regulations regarding development in the Edwards Aquifer. They are in the recharge portion of the Edwards Aquifer Zone, and those rules and regulations require that they address water quality prior to the exiting of stormwater runoff from any site. They will have to comply with those regulations. They will have a design that addresses that water quality on their site, and that will essentially treat the water to pre-development or natural state once it exits their property into our property. And so that is a plus of their being located in that Edwards Aquifer Zone. The city of Cedar Park will also be looking at that, although ultimately the party responsible for monitoring their compliance with that will be TCEQ. I want to point out that the district has its own MS4 program, which is essentially a stormwater quality monitoring program. I believe that that program does call for monitoring of water quality at various locations, including locations where the Nebraska Furniture Mart improvements would tie into your system. So we will have monitoring. We have monitoring already in place for a background data based on how the water is looking, and we'll have monitoring as we go forward. Maybe something we want to discuss with the developers of that site about having some ongoing monitoring relationship with them, and that's something that we can talk more about. In general, the project's moving along well. They have filed their applications for preliminary approval and zoning with the city of Cedar Park. We've had several meetings with them. They also are, I know, talking to the district on another level, if you will, about potential improvements to offer the district up in that area. So we'll be working with them on that, but primarily engineering on it. And so it's important to recognize, in summary, that their development was accounted for in terms of the storm drainage. They are not asking for water or wastewater service from y'all. There will be no connection in terms of traffic across your boundary into your property. They will take sole access to their site from New Hope Road, which, by the way, is also under a CIP project with the city of Cedar Park to expand New Hope to, I believe, 6 lanes, I want to say. Stan, be corrected on that, but it's a massive improvement. So there will be a lot of traffic improvements along New Hope to accommodate additional traffic in the area.
Thank you for that update, Mr. Gray. And I just want to share that we have, yourself included, and Sean and Mr. Shoemaker and myself, have worked with them for months and months and months. And they've been here at least once or twice presenting. They presented to the OA. We have been to city council meetings. We have really, I think this board has stepped up and tried to be proactive and work with them at the very beginning. I think we learned some lessons from HEV Center and the hotspot. So we've tried to identify any areas, including light, sound, traffic, and stormwater. There's, I understand that residents are frustrated, may not know all the facts, but we couldn't say no, you can't access our storm drain. we couldn't divert it to Brushy Creek
Right.
or somewhere else.
Right.
And the water is going to be cleaner, so
That's
we are
correct.
not going to be polluting, we're actually gonna have cleaner water going into our creeks.
I would agree.
That means less cleanup on the disc golf course where the creek runs through, there'll be less of the New Hope stuff coming down
Yeah.
the creek? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, just like even that little bridge at Humana, you know, where you see a lot of stuff.
I love it.
So, and I think what we've seen so far is we wanna be, we want them to be a good corporate neighbor, and they have been very
They
motivated.
exhibited that, I
Yeah,
believe.
not only, the developer, but I think the city of Cedar Park has also encouraged that as well. So, I just want residents, I know nobody really likes new development, and it is gonna be a change. We can't stop it, but what we can do is work with them and make it the best
Best we
situation for us. So I wanna thank Sean and the board and David for helping us so far, and we're gonna do a lot more work. We have a meeting next week, with Sean and David to work on some other aspects of it, but we'll continue to do that. So thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I think one Dirk Logan mentioned too, is, you know, my understanding, or my recollection was that, you know, because the water, I mean, if you walk, it hasn't rained much lately, but if you go over to that drainage area across from the school on Creek Run, and it rains a lot, you can see the water coming off the pasture into our drainage, right? And my understanding of water law is that if it naturally drains on your property, you can't tell them to go take it somewhere else.
You are correct.
You're legally obligated to take it. So there's not really any question of, oh, you know, we go tell Berkshire Hathaway and NFL to go do something different.
Yeah,
This is black letter law, we would lose if we were trying to play that kind of a game.
right.
And they are cooperative in recognizing that what we have to accept is the pre-development flows.
Yes.
And they're reducing those flows accordingly.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things I recall in the discussions with them was that, you know, part of the reason I wanted to tie into our stuff was to help manage the light and sound mitigation while they worked with us, because our recollection day was that if we didn't do the tie-in to help manage that piece of the flow, they were looking to potentially have to add some elevation to the main site development to make sure their detention flows work. So I mean, I know it's very inside baseball and complicated, but essentially.
That's consistent. They're
If we-
doing that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, so that, I mean, you know, I get some of the neighbors are kind of upset. I will say this, I think Cedar Park's doing the best they can, but I'll just say this is a matter of, you know, for people to talk about annexation and stuff, this is a native trade that we chose to remain independent, not saying it's right or wrong, and we're here, right? It's what the neighborhood chose, we honor their will, but at the same time, by doing that, we do not have it. I mean, if we were part of Cedar Park, we could have gone to city, they'll be like, oh, I mean, they're making accommodations for Cedar Park Town Center because they're voters. So I mean, so I think that, you know, I feel like some folks are kind of upset about this and kind of like, but there also was a lot of voices about we want to remain independent. I'm like, well, that was the trade you chose to make in the past, right? By not pursuing a path towards annexation.
Right.
And I think that honestly is probably the right path for our neighborhood personally, but I think people should be cognizant that you can't keep yourself arm's length from the city and then be upset when that city pursues land use on that property. They're landlocked. They're, you know, they're not gonna refuse to develop the property, right? They when they see that developed is their tax base, so.
Well, and I think a lot of residents are upset because they don't know the facts. They're thinking worst case scenario, oh my gosh, you know, all the oil and all this is gonna come down. So I'm hoping that if they listen and watch now, or watch the recording, they'll understand a little bit more clearly the facts, and maybe some of their fears will be alleviated.
And our office is always available for questions.
Well, we appreciate you working on this today,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff's monitored,
you.
and we really appreciate this.
Okay,
Thank
anything
y'all.
else?
No.
You good?
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Report from Crossroads, Ben.
Dealing with a set of cards down
Alright, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Alright, so we got, last month we talked about the leak detection report with the consulting from James Shealy. That report looks really good, and our water loss came back at 7% this month, which is down from 11%. So his report was very detailed and addressed a lot of just small leaks here and there, especially in the older parts of the neighborhood. He called out a lot in his report, and our maintenance team has addressed every single one, and they have been fixed and buttoned up. So I think that's why our water loss trend is down, which is huge.
Yes.
So we'll continue to monitor that, and if it gets worse in the coming months, he has a recommendation to do, a solution for a nighttime leak detection, but, I don't think we're anywhere near that yet. We'll monitor that. The only negative thing about that was like the blockhouse meters are very old. I'm sure all of us are aware, some of these meters are 40 years old, 30 years old. So if we wanted to in the future, we could have a discussion about getting electronic meters in. And we would need to do that or discuss that before next year's budget, because it is going to be a very large budget. But it would completely cut off like all customer complaints. It would cut off everybody on Facebook, because you could look at the real time. Yeah. I would say 90, someone's gonna always complain.
I think you might get a different set of complaints.
Yeah, you're right. But it's nice because the AMR meters that we use, like in Sonterra and Gerald, they ping data, 3 or 4 times a day, and it's in real time. So leaks, usage, everything, it's just like a lot more transparent. And you don't have any rogue water meter readers that, upside down reads and they get false readings and people get upset. So it's something to consider.
I'm sorry, do y'all have a standard for replacing meters in terms of gallonage here in this
Over a million.
neighborhood?
Yes, it should be over 1 million or 2 million in the contracts.
Okay.
Which I know we met the quota last year. It's 100 per year, I believe. Yeah, and so we met that quota last year. It's just tough on our guys because they have so much to do on their plate, and so installing these installing new meters here in Blockhouse is tough because the meter boxes are just old and they're under bushes and they're full of mud, so it's tough. Which is why next year, or in the future, if we wanted to discuss anything, we would have an outside company come in and put in new boxes and new meters and clean it out, make it look pretty and nice, so.
We would certainly endorse the consideration of electronic meters. It is an expensive, and it can be phased, but I know Lisa has a lot of experience in other districts with those, and they are the wave of the future. We have a number of other districts that are doing it. It's just how you finance it, how you get over that initial hump like everything else.
Okay.
One of the things to think about too, sorry to interrupt you, we had put in place that special projects text pool account several years ago that has not been touched. And so it may be something that we want to think about using for electronic meters if you decide to go that direction.
How much is in there?
Gosh.
Okay, Ben, you can continue, she's looking that up.
There's no write-offs for this month. Our lead and copper sampling is completed. We have 20 out of 20 samples that are registered. And then I believe we are in contact with Elston Johnson for the school. There's a special protocol for that, but we are aware of that and we're on top of it.
Good.
The boards at the lift station are fixed.
Oh, wonderful.
Those curved up boards, so no more noise from that and no more eyesore.
Okay.
And then I believe I had the lift station checked today by our supervisor, and that lift station is functioning correctly with no issues. It's a good lift station. It's checked daily by our team. We have a really good operator out here too. Just throwing that out there, and our supervisor is very on top of his daily routine, especially with all of his guys. So, in my opinion, Blockhouse is getting a very good oversight daily from our crew. What was that? About a week ago, we had an issue with like a banking glitch. Some unlinked accounts through Plaid. Plaid is like the software that we use to link banks with payments. But that was like just a weird glitch we had. It was a few minutes on the Crossroads side, and the one person that called in, it was addressed and it was fixed. Our customer supervisor pulled some calls. There was no other issues. There was just kind of some user error issues. But as of right now, like, there's no more further issues, and if anybody receives that in the community, they have an issue logging in or making a payment, they just call customer service, and any of the reps should just be able to walk them through on the phone exactly how to do it. And it's actually really easy to do the guest pay. Like when you go on our customer portal, and like, let's just say you don't know your info, you can just click the, guess button, and all you gotta do is put in your account number, and it'll pull your bill right up, and it's like the fastest way to pay your bill without having to remember, you know, your username and password and go through all your emails, and it might be sent to your spam folder so they don't get it, and then so on and so forth.
Hey, so I just have a couple of questions on that, because I did see quite a bit of chatter on it. I know just one resident called in, but there were at least 10 or more residents I'm aware of that did experience the issue, and they had to go back in and relink their account. It's my understanding the system was only down like 4 minutes, right? So it was a pretty quick, like it broke, you guys identified it, and you fixed it. I had a couple questions for you, and what I wanted to know, and maybe I wasn't clear, is it impacted residents that had their account linked to their bank account, correct? So what I wanted to know is how many residents fall into that category, have their accounts from Crossroads linked to their bank account, so maybe it was 100. And so maybe only 20 out of 100 were impacted, but that was kind of the data I was looking for. And and I understand it was only 4 minutes and you guys corrected it quickly, but it was enough that it impacted enough residents that they did get out there and they were complaining, and in their, you know, I sent you the screenshot of those individuals. And I just want us in the future to talk to Crossroads, if you ever do have another glitch, I want us to be proactive and let, you know, the residents know. So if there are 100 residents that have their bank accounts linked, send out an email to them, say, hey, sorry, we had this little glitch, you may or may not have been impacted, but it just goes so much further than for them to go out on Facebook or to call the GM or call a director and say, you know, this is broken, or, you know, whatever. So I know that doesn't sit with, you know, you're not the one that makes that decision, but I want you to take it back and to consider some other approach next time something does go down.
Taylor had a figure for us.
Yeah, 375,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if I can follow up on that really quick. I'd like to hear more. I don't know anything about how much it's gonna cost and stuff like that, and how long we can phase it, how, like, but I really wanna get our budget right next year, not have a lot of question marks. So if we can get some sort of a proposal, like, spread it out, stuff like that, then we can start spending that money and budgeting properly for it.
Sure, we'll put it on the agenda and have a further discussion, but I think that's a great idea.
And I think that y'all said next year, right? You're not.
Yes, for next year's budget, because it's.
In
quite pricey.
2024, 2025?
I mean, I would like to do 24, but that may not be something that we all agree on. I think it's the right move, but.
Yeah, we've already budgeted for this coming year.
Or, I'm sorry, 25, I'm sorry.
But we do have some money in there. I don't know if that's something we could start or something like that. I have no idea about the price tag, if that gets us through 3 houses or if that gets us through half the district. But can we have an action item from you, just some rough numbers and how to?
Well, what we can do is what we're doing in Vista Oaks right now is we're having our sales rep, his name's Stephen Montgomery from HydroPro Solutions, who they're the ones that we trust and we like. He is coming into our Vista Oaks meeting to give like a sales pitch and to just give all of the numbers, you know.
Which we also represent, Robert, so, yeah, I mean, I think between, certainly, Crossroads can bring that information and.
Yeah, we could even just get their proposal and how many houses they've got there, we should be able to do the math and.
They talked about it at CASE, I think we had a couple of presentations at CASE on it, so. Okay, do you have anything else?
Oh yeah, and then just, my last item is just the, action item from last month, the, new base rate fee for the contract. The contract expires on September 30th of this year, so 3 days. And so the new contract is just asking, board to approve the new base rate and the labor and equipment, rates for.
Yeah, so we can go ahead and go into that right now if you'd like. Directors, it's number 31 under legal. I did do a red line of it. I reached out to Andrew and I talked to Sean. And after talking to Sean, I think I would recommend that we go ahead and motion and approve the contract as it is, but there are some significant red lines, and it's really matching what the GM's doing versus what operations is, and the parks, our parks gentleman falls under operations, and there seems to be a little bit duplicative stuff, and I just give you a very simple example is if Travis goes and buys stuff through operations, they're buying it through Crossroads, which is a 10% uptick, you know, in the price. And if he was buying it through our credit card through the GM, there wouldn't be that additional cost. So there's just a couple areas that we wanna, look at and just have it better fit for purpose, for both contracts fit, for, you know, what you were really doing and what she's doing, and so, do I have a motion to approve the contract? It's, 30, what was the amount, 30,000 more, it was 5,000 a month more? 5 times 12, 11%
A
increase?
little bit over $4,000.
Yeah.
So how are we gonna amend it with your red lines if they make sense?
Well, I think it's gonna take more, I think we just have to approve this now. I think we just have to approve it now, and then we can go back and amend it, because I think it's gonna have to be
Just
interesting.
a little bit of history, so the operation services agreement predates the GM contract with Crossroads, right? And so there were things relating to parks that were initially built into here, and we have one iteration of the GM contract a little bit. I do agree with Ursula that there are some duplicative things. At least on paper, I don't think Crossroads is doing anything duplicative in the field, nor do I think that y'all are double paying for anything.
Right.
But I think that, I think we can make the documents a little bit more efficient from a readability.
Or we get a second Travis?
I guess, I was looking through it, I saw the change in the pricing in the years, I'm missing the significant red line part, or do I?
I haven't,
That hasn't been
that's
shared yet.
fine.
What is in here is my red line, which
Gotcha,
just is
okay.
reflective of the price changes.
Just when I read through it, I started redlining it, and then I pulled up the GM versus that on my screen, and I was like, whoa.
Well, do you wanna just approve what Sean's got tonight, and then you bring your others to the next meeting?
That's what I meant, and it may not even be.
That's what I
this
thought
one.
you said, I was really getting confused though, cause I was
Sorry.
making sure, no, it's quite alright, I was
I
making sure
probably
that's the
wasn't
right
really
time.
clear, and, yeah.
And
Fine.
just to make sure, now that we're in the business of being clear, so under operations, there are red lines throughout the document. Within the exhibits, they are not redlined. These rates have gone up a little bit, but as these were PDFs, we just inserted the new ones, so.
And one note is, if you look at the red lines, it went up from like 75 cents to 95 cents, I think, per letter for delinquent accounts, and then $45 to shut off or reinstate. That's actually a wash, that goes to the individual. So, okay, so do I have a motion to approve the new Crossroads operations contract?
Yeah, I'll move it to put a agreement, what, item
31.
31. I'll move to approve it as it's in the book, and then we'll bring this back next week, next month with the additional changes, right?
A month or two. I wanna, it's gonna take some work.
We wanna be thoughtful about it, make sure we get it. all.
Okay, but we wanna do
Yeah,
those.
we'll have it on.
I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear the motion, I'm motioning today, but we still wanna talk about getting the other stuff
And-
done.
I'll second.
Good. And actually, I talked to Sean about it, and he said that maybe the services subcommittee, you and Director Roberts should work on it.
Okay.
But I would like all the directors, because like I've already put my red lines in, to give you feedback.
No,
And
that's
then-
fine, that's
okay.
good.
Okay, so, everyone, in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, approved. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, have a good one.
Yes, you too.
Okay, where are we? Thank you. So do we have anything with TDS?
No, the report is in the
Have we scheduled the large item drop-off day?
Yes, we have scheduled the large item drop-off.
Okay.
What day was it again, Lisa?
Oh gosh, here we go.
Well, no, 'cause we've been
I
talking.
do have it, give me one.
Thanks,
moment.
Look
everyone.
and see if I have a note from
They were all on the edge of their seat about that operations contract.
Even Mark the pool guy.
The drama is over. They can go.
Yes, the
21st,
21st.
okay,
Oh,
that was
okay.
the
Yes, thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy, yeah, cause, I don't wanna skip ahead, I'll let you do your piece, Lisa, and then I'll talk about something on 28.
That's actually all I have on that,
Okay.
on that item.
Well, just, if I can skip ahead to 28 real quick, if that's all right, Director Lowe, just do the.
Yeah, we don't have
the
any,
committee-
we don't have anything on the 27th.
On 27, okay, because the committee, so, Director Robertson and I were able to make the actual committee meeting, we both had things come up, but we were emailing with Amy about capacity. We want to make sure, we're working through with TDS about making sure we got the adequate capacity, but also weighing the cost. So I don't know if we've got the final answer with Amy, but
We
Amy's
haven't
been.
gotten that, yes, but we did provide you all with
Yes.
what he's talking about in capacity is the dumpsters. So we needed to find out if we were gonna actually be wanting to add an additional dumpster, still keeping the same time frame,
Yep.
but just giving more capacity. So we have,
We want to make sure we don't run out.
right,
Yeah, and keep in mind it's fall, so there's gonna be a lot of people doing fall
Yes.
cleanup.
Well, that's what we've asked Amy to pull some historical information. from
and we
TDS
did
and-
get that
Yeah, I saw
historical
that.
information, and that was actually sent over today. a little bit
Yeah,
Wonderful.
so we'll probably have some kind of final decision from the source of committee on that, but, that was all I had for my end.
Okay, let's go on to legal, report and directives from Sean.
So I think the most important thing, it actually isn't listed here, but just to confirm, the City of Cedar Park did approve the fire services contract on the 14th of September, so that's been renewed for another couple of years. I'm gonna go ahead and distribute our legislative session update. In the interest of time, I'm gonna go ahead and just read it word for word.
Oh, boy.
In the interest of lawyer time.
Your update's only 10 pages, it's not that bad.
So it's pink,
That's
does this
a lot of
mean we have
bills.
to give it back to you?
You guys are welcome to keep these.
Okay.
It is, we label it as privileged and confidential because our firm does take time to put this all together. But I can kind of go through some of these real quick. And this is formatted as we typically do. There's kind of a summary over the first page and a half or so, and then a little bit of breakout following that. So I will quickly go through it. You are welcome to reach out to me if you do have any questions about this, but you can go ahead and take these home. Just please note posting.
Okay.
Under water districts, and again, this is intended specifically for you as our board members, and this is about water districts. It's not necessarily about development or any other related issues. If it impacts boards, or districts themselves, we do try to list it. Under water districts, HB 2815, we talked about this one a little bit. This was the bill that adjusted the variable per diem. There are some minor things here with regards to the Public Information Act. Is put in, there is a requirement for a new notice to purchaser that you may remember we talked about at your tax levy meeting. So this is omnibus bill, and so you'll see this is a rather lengthy explanation across pages 2 and 3 of all the different things. There is stuff in there that deals with the division of districts. In some, you see this go through, I would say every 3 or 4 sessions, there's an omnibus water district bill that is generally a cleanup bill for general law, and that's what this was. I think we've already covered probably in previous meetings all the things that are impactful to y'all. Under procurement and contracts, I think some of the stuff we've talked about already. The legislature, in all their wisdom, updated some of the thresholds for contracting, and specifically when you have to go out and competitively bid. That's mentioned here under, I think that is 3507, so that now you don't have to competitively bid over 75K, you only have to competitively bid over 150K, so that's certainly helpful in terms of the cost. Under Form 1295, that is the document that you have to solicit from all the contractors that you do business with. That process has been made a little bit more simpler in terms of how long you have to pursue that document from developers and how that would be resolved later if they never provide it. Under water and wastewater, nothing major here. In the last couple sessions, we've had weather-related stuff that has gone through. It's kind of complicated some of your billing processes. Nothing like that this year. Property taxes, no sweeping SB2 reform. I wouldn't say that there wasn't any important tax bills that were passed this session. But nothing revolutionary like SB2 where you have to completely redo your process and be cognizant of those processes on a go-forward basis. Similarly, under transparency and security, there is a bill that was passed, SB 1893, which is the TikTok ban that will affect y'all. There will need to be a model policy that will be put into place. The DIR is working with, I think, DPS in order to draft that model policy. Luckily, the individual who runs government relations for the DIR is an old acquaintance of mine. I spoke with her. They're still drafting their model policy, so once that pops out, we'll have, I think it's 60 days in order to consider that. Actually will affect, for most of my boards, I say that it won't really affect you because you don't have any devices, but for you guys, we'll have to make sure that if their laptops out at any of the water, no, okay, that's good. Well, we certainly do have them here, so we'll just have to be a little bit more cognizant here than for some of the other clients I have that don't have such significant operations. Under elections, nothing revolutionary this time. Posting a campaign finance reports on your district website or elsewhere on the internet. That is something that will affect you all, so we'll have to make sure we do that. And then under G and H, these are not things that will directly impact you as a district. As I said, most of this is water district stuff, but there were a lot of developmental bills that the legislature considered this time around. More specifically, kind of oversight bills on cities and counties for the approval of projects, things like plats, site plans, etc. And there was also an ETJ release bill where individual landowners can now petition to be released from an ETJ of a city. That's SB 2038. I can assure you that that is getting a lot of attention in the development community throughout the state of Texas. That is all I really have, again, for you tonight. You're welcome to keep these and just be judicious with how you use it. If you do have any questions, you're more than welcome.
Do you mind sending a copy to Director Johnson and Roberts?
Absolutely.
Okay, and just let them know not to.
And it's with Sean, basically, on the elections part, just think about 26. Denise, if it works, basically, we're gonna have to decide if we're gonna have it on, am I reading this right? It's either have to be on our it's gonna be on our website, not either y'all's or.
That's what it sounds like,
Okay.
yeah.
I think putting them on your website makes sense. This is kind of tricky because we only post what we receive. So we don't, oftentimes if we're running an election, we don't get all the proper forms, we're not chasing them. So,
yeah.
But we're now required to post what we do receive.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you done? Number 34, Code of Ethics, we just have one sentence.
We do have one more. Do you mind if I hit 32 real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, so this is the CAM contract.
Oh, yeah.
And Will Cardwell and I were supposed to catch up a little bit on this before. Unfortunately, he has been a little bit under the weather. What I have for you, board members, I marked up this contract. I sent it to Jack Baker, and, sorry, Robert. And what you have here, and then I made some changes to his changes. And you have this red line version, the proper red line, that makes a few tweaks. I'm just gonna hit the substantive stuff. Let's see here. We have included there was some confusion about the retention of documents relating to ACC submissions, so that has been added. Jack has kind of simplified some things from a process perspective throughout that I think was all pretty agreeable to me. In terms of working with the subcommittee, I have made some things to make for more efficient processes as well. Jack has added let's see, I'm on page 3 here, the last red line there, attend one meeting subcommittee per month. We still have the language in here where we can request that he attend meetings. And proposed cost has gone up a little bit from $2,400 to $2,800 per month. I will point out that within his contract here, individually treated are the processing of ACC applications. I got a little bit curious about that, and so I did query Taylor, and I looked at the past 5 invoices. His average invoices over the past 4 months, I'm sorry, was about $2,800. So reflective of getting about 3 to 4 of those per month. I was concerned it might be higher than that, and it wasn't.
There have been some months that were pretty high,
There
but
have been, but you know, it's small sample size in what I looked at, but you know, I was.
One thing that came to my mind is that's a fee that we are paying. Why wouldn't a resident pay that? They're the ones requesting the ACC approval. They're the ones, I mean, why is the district paying
That's
that?
a good question. I'm happy to kind of take that offline later.
Okay. It just seems like that might be an area.
I think it is a public service that, you know, the district is engaged in that.
Okay.
But happy to kind of talk more about that later.
Okay.
And, you know,
Well, I guess here's the reason I'm saying it is because every single resident is paying for Shoemaker to submit a ACC request. So it's kind of like if he wants to submit one, he should pay for that instead of all the residents paying for it. Is that-
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, all right.
But happy to answer if y'all do have any questions about the markups here.
Okay.
But generally speaking, from a substantive perspective, it didn't change too much. In terms of the price increase, I think we're about 1.5 years into this contract. For better or for worse, I can tell you that I have not seen any consultant contracts be considered my boards within the past 1.5 years or so that doesn't include a price increase.
Did you add anything that he needs to have somebody, an admin person or somebody? I know in the subcommittee meeting that I sat in for you, there was some consternation on that.
And we have had some internal conversations, and I know one of the things that I think there have been some process questions. And so it would be my recommendation that we probably have a review with Jack and Cam.
Okay.
There have been some staffing concerns on his side. And my understanding is that prior to the change in staff, there was a good process in place. And subsequent to that, I think the everyday work that's been done on the account has been satisfactory, but the administration sometimes is challenged. And so it would be my thought that we probably try to do a review maybe before the end of the year, and just express some of the preferences for process and, you know.
Okay, so it shouldn't have been written into the contract at this point.
Well, there's a couple of restrictive covenant things that touch on some different, we can talk about some of these things in executive, I think, a bit about.
Oh, sorry, we gotta do that, okay, let's.
Yeah, so we'll be brief.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the CAM contract?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's done, now let's move to code of conduct. Sean, you have one, Sean and I worked on this, and it's basically, we try to use the Robert's Rule of Order to kind of follow, I guess, to manage our meetings. And, it's always been kind of said, but it's never been formalized. So Sean put in, it's not a red line, it's just in the code, I think it's towards the end.
Yeah, so it, on page 7 of the revised code of conduct, right at the begin, top of page 7, the new section 6.03 just provides that to confirm parliamentary procedure, that Robert's Rules of Order will be the governing rules of procedure for the district.
Oh, good, thank you. That's good to have in there already.
Yes.
You know, and there are different versions, and sometimes local governments or groups will adopt their own version, but there isn't anything in state law that, you know, specifically requires local government to utilize Robert's Rules of Order. So I think it's,
I think it just helps.
just good to confirm that via the code of conduct.
What do you mean we could use the precedence of the Texas House or something similarly like difficult and arcane?
Okay, so do we need to have a motion to approve do I have a motion to approve the new code of conduct with the Robert's Rule of Order language?
Motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna hold on the, 2 policies, because Johnson and I worked on it, and I think that all directors should be here when we talk about true new policies. So we'll move that to next month. Board subcommittee, anything on that?
I'd like to discuss that. I am on the, maybe this is not the right item, maybe we gotta go back, but I'm on the PR comms subcommittee. The survey is kind of a big project, something that I ran on. What I'm asking is that we would pop that out of the normal subcommittee assignments, do a,
Ad hoc.
okay, yeah, that's better than a subcommittee. We would do an ad hoc, and I would like to invite either Director Johnson or Shoemaker to join me and do that so that we can stay focused. And I've got plenty of points to bring up if we need to discuss that. If I need to sway you guys in the favor of that, or we can just move on and.
Director Shoemaker, do you have any interest in sitting on the ad hoc for the, survey?
I would like to, I'm just a little hesitant because I'm having trouble getting my other 2 committee meetings handled regularly, particularly with the next couple months, like, we're about to go back in legislative session again.
Yeah, that's right.
Can we?
So I don't wanna throw it directly on Director Johnson while he's not here.
Can we do that?
But I think that
Okay.
that would be kind of the thing is like, I'd love to, but I don't know between now and like Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I don't wanna promise I can be there to help and then have to leave it all on
I think
Director
Johnson would actually.
I'd like to put it on Johnson with you as an alternate.
Okay, hey, not bad. I mean, you know, but
Okay.
that was my thing, I didn't wanna throw it on him.
Do we
without
need to
him
vote
being
on
there
that?
for himself.
Okay, motion, do I have a motion?
Motion.
To create an ad hoc for the survey with yourself and Director Johnson and Director Shoemaker as the alternate. Okay, second.
Second.
Johnson's probably watching.
I said, I'm voting for it, so he can do it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, okay, good job. Let's go into executive real quick
Yeah, just
and
have a
wrap
brief
it up.
executive on restricted covenant, so.
Okay,